Hello. I want to play a game.
Any plans for this evening? Perhaps a game night?
Game over, man. It's game over.
Shut up. Play the game. Play it from your heart.
26 years ago, we started playing a little game. Now, we're all gonna sit down. We're gonna finish it.
And may the odds be ever in your favor.
And here we go.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dice Camera Action, a mashup podcast about board games and movies. I'm Jason Tripp, and I'd like to welcome you all to this midnight mass. Yes, we are actually recording this episode fittingly, actually well beyond the stroke of midnight tonight.
Yes. More, I want to say more like Midnight Masterpiece.
All right, Matt.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a little bit of a spoiler there on my thoughts.
Gotcha. Well, Matt Cousineau here with Jason Tripp, and in case you haven't clued in, we're dropping this episode on Halloween. So welcome everyone to a very special Halloween. Happy Halloween to you all here at Dice Camera Action. And so of course today we're going to be taking a look at some sort of Halloween, sort of dark, dreary, a little bit scary in the shadows game, and not a movie this week, but we're going to be looking at a mini-series, a limited release series from a few years ago. So we're looking at the game, very popular game. It came out, I believe, in 2022.
That's right.
Called Beast. It's a one versus many game. And we're pairing it with the Netflix series that's equally or even more popular, perhaps, from, I believe, 2021, which we both revisited for this episode. It's called Midnight Mass. One of your favorites, Matt, Mike Flanagan. So I think both of these make a great pairing for today's Halloween episode.
Didn't give you much of a choice on that.
No, you kind of said, we're doing this for Halloween. And so we're actually recording this. We're almost 1 a.m. here. We're recording this.
Yeah.
And we actually got the game to the table earlier tonight. So my first play, so it's fresh. So it's kind of cool. We'll do this once in a while, maybe, where we'll actually record right after playing the game. So yeah, you said we're doing Beast. We're doing Midnight Mass. I won't take no for an answer. So I was happy to come along for the ride, and here we are. So, but before we get deep into the game review and the limited series review today, as we typically do here at Dice Camera Action, we're just going to shout out what we've been playing recently, what we've been watching recently. So Matt, why don't you talk to us about something you've been playing the last little while? What have you had on the table?
Yeah, if you follow us on YouTube at DCA Podcast, so if you look up DCA Podcast on YouTube, we're dropping videos there on a pretty regular basis. Most of our podcasts are going to be up on there as well if you prefer a video option. But recently I dropped my first impressions of a game called Bus.
Beep, beep.
So Bus has been a grail game for me pretty much since I got in the hobby. It hasn't really been available. And then the other day I walked into my local game store and there it was. And then I immediately reached for
stores,
it. Yeah, I got excited. I reached for it. And then I saw the price tag and I backed off and I said, what's going on here? And then, so it is a Splotter game. It has a reputation. It is one of those stone cold classics.
For those that don't know, what's a Splotter game?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Splotter is a company that I believe, the way it was explained to me, it is a publisher that releases one game every 1 or 2 years, not very often.
Very high concept.
Very high concept.
Yeah.
They're usually very heavy, very expensive games that have a lot of replayability, and they have a really great reputation for what they do. But from what I'm being told is that the big thing is that they play test it to death.
They do.
All of their games, and because they release
Food Chain Magnet's one of their big ones.
Food Chain
right?
Magnet, Horseless Carriage is one of their more recent ones. Not, to be honest, this is the first Splotter game that I've personally played. But yeah, so from what I understand, the reputation is as I just kind of explained. But yeah, so my first Splotter game, and they do have a reputation of having kind of bigger, more expensive games. Now I'm looking at this one; it's not that big of a box. I turn it over. I look at the components.
Pretty simple.
Nothing special
Yeah.
going on there.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like, okay, as I put it down and I have a chat with, the store owner, and I decide, okay, I'm going to bite the bullet. This is a game that I've wanted for a long time. And so I picked it up.
And did it disappoint?
Absolutely not. No, I mean, again, if you look at the components, what's inside the box alone, not worth it. But if you look at the experience that you're getting from it, I would say spend the money. It is really great. I've now played it 4 times. My first play was 5 players. It was a little bit wild. It was a learning game, a little bit difficult to get anything done. But my next 3 plays were all 3-player games. And I had an absolute blast. I can't wait to get it back to the table.
Nice.
I'll give a really quick rundown of how it plays.
Right,
But-
because you did drop your first impressions video on the YouTube channel. Check it out there, but maybe
Yeah.
you can give us the kind of in a nutshell
Yeah.
mechanics of how
In
the
a
game works.
nutshell, you've got 20 cylinders, and so that represents 20 action cylinders that you have, and they're finite. So when you use them, you lose them,
They're gone.
and that's it. So if you use them all and you're out of actions, and you're just gonna wait to see
Just
what
gotta
happens.
wait it out, right? Okay.
But typically people kind of go at this sort of the same pace from what I've noticed. But some people can maybe get a little bit more aggressive. So you're basically putting out these cylinders, and there's kind of an action selection phase where you put out your cylinders. You're going to be extending your bus line. So you're building a line on this map of a city, and you're putting down these lines kind of like you would in Catan as you build roads between different locations. So you're putting down bus lines. You're adding buses to your business or your line so that you can move more passengers. You're putting out passengers. You're putting out buildings. And then you're running your bus line. So these are all different kinds of actions that you can put your cylinder on. And then once everybody's put their cylinders down and everybody's passed, then from top to bottom, we're going to resolve each action. There's 3 types of buildings. There's home, work, and the pub. And so each round, your target location for your passengers is going to be either, again, home, work, or the pub.
Well, it's typically the order, right? You
That's
start
right,
at home,
yeah.
you go to work, you hit the pub.
That's right. And
Rinse
after the
repeat,
pub,
right?
you go
back
home,
yeah.
and then it kind of restarts from
Right.
there. So there's one really neat mechanism. There's a time machine.
Great Scott!
And there's one spot that one person can put their cylinder each round.
What?
Where when it comes to, I know.
That's wild.
When it comes to that.
Remember the TV show Magic School Bus? I'm thinking of that show right now.
Yeah, that fits right in. Yeah, maybe we'll review Bus with Magic. There must be a Magic School
man.
Bus movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, when it comes to the time machine, if you have your cylinder there, you may choose to stop time, and instead of moving the little arrow to the next location from home to work or work to the pub, etc., you could just like stop time and go to the same location again, which can have a huge impact on the game. If you're not in a position to move a bunch of people yet to work, maybe you want to stop time
Interesting.
and stop all your opponents from being able to do it.
Oh man, if only that was real life, right? If we could just like
Just stay home forever. Yeah.
not forever, but I might want to tomorrow stay home after this night.
So if Jason calls in sick tomorrow, you'll know why. But yeah, anyways, this puzzle of how many cylinders to put out, what actions to put your cylinders on, in what order to do things, whether or not you're stopping time, is amazing and fascinating, and I'm having a ton of fun with this game. And in terms of like, it is so accessible and so easy to learn the rules, but so difficult to get anything done. As I said in the video, it is brutal, it is unforgiving, and it is tight. And so
Which may or may not be appealing to some of the listeners and viewers.
for sure,
right?
yeah. And it is very, very, very high interaction. So if you don't like high player interaction and things changing on you and other people maybe taking things that you were hoping to get, or blocking or whatever, if you're not into that, the game is not for you. But if you want that sort of puzzle and to like, I want to compare it almost to chess, where it's like the rules overhead are so simple, but like it's something you'll never fully master.
There's so many variations of gameplay, right?
Yeah. So just due to the like how much infinite gameplay I suspect is there after 4 games, I think it's well worth the money.
That helps justify the high price tag,
for sure.
If that's your type of game,
Yeah,
cool.
and it is, like I said, a stone cold classic, and I can see why.
Yeah.
Now I get it now after playing.
Yeah, I have not played Bust yet. I've heard about it for years. I mean, many, many years. I know it was out of print, hard to get your hands on. That I did see coming back, but again, the price tag kind of scared me away. So it's nice to have friends with money. So thanks, Matt. I'll just come over and play your game on your table.
Friends with less money now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, awesome. That's great. Well, it sounds like a good one. I'm really intrigued and looking forward to checking it out. So
yeah, what have you been playing?
Yeah, so I've been playing a few games. I'll shout out just one that, again, I've been getting to the table a few times. Picked it up within the last month and I've played it probably 6-7 times on the table already and a few times online. It's on Board Game Arena. Mm-hmm. You can find it there. It's a game called Harmonies. A little lighter weight than Buzz, but it hits that sweet spot for me. There's some really cool mechanics and decision and sort of, I guess, engine building, hand management, action selection. Those of you familiar with popular games like Azul, Cascadia, Earth, kind of is a mashup of some of those games I all like, and this nicely blends those games together. Basically, in a nutshell, how the game works is everybody has their player board in front of them. And on that player board, you've got just a landscape with a number of blank hexagonal spaces. And there's one shared board in the middle of the table. Much like in Azul, there's going to be these various spots where you can grab tokens from. And each of those 5 spots will have 3 tokens on them of different color. And it's all nature themed. Harmonies refers to creating harmonies in nature. So it's a nature themed game, and in the same vein as Cascadia or Earth. And on your turn, unlike Azul, where you just take all of one color off one spot, you take all 3 tokens, regardless of color. And they could be brown, signifying tree trunks, or green, signifying the leaves at the top of the trees, or blue, signifying water, yellow, signifying sort of, I guess, desert or plains, gray, signifying mountains, or pink, signifying buildings. And so you're grabbing a combination of those from one of the 5 spots you can select, and you'll immediately place those 3 circle tokens of various colors strategically on your player board. And when I say strategically, I mean that for 2 reasons, because basically each color has a certain type of scoring associated with them. So let's say I grab some mountains. Well, if my mountain is 1 level high, it's worth 1 point. If I make it 2 levels high, it's worth 3 points. If I can make it 3 levels high by stacking 3 of those tokens, it's worth 7 points. But only if it's chained together by at least 1 other mountain. And so there's restrictions and rules for scoring. Likewise, the deserts need to be at least 2 together, clumped together. Each section of 2 or more is worth 5 points. The water, you just want to make a long river through your board. And the longer the river, the more points you'll accumulate at the end. Buildings need to be 2 levels high, and the top level's pink, but the bottom level, obviously you're not building it on water or desert. It's got to be a mountain in the foundation, or wood in the foundation, or another pink building token in the foundation. And if those are surrounded by 3 or more different colors, you get 5 points for those. Likewise, trees, you can have just you could have the shrub right on the ground, or you can have 1 or 2 levels of the brown tree trunk, and they're worth 1, 3, I think 1, 4, or 7 points, I believe, is the scoring for those. And so you're getting those scoring, and those scoring is going to dictate how you basically place those tokens. And if that was all the game was, it would be fine and good. But what makes this game really fascinating is not only are you getting those base points, but you're also collecting these cards. And on your turn, you're not simply grabbing 3 tokens, but you also have the opportunity to grab a card. There's 4 cards in a display, and you can grab one of those, and you have 4 spots where you can hold up the 4 cards. And on these cards are going to be different patterns. So you could have 1 desert next to a stack of 3 mountains. And every time you can satisfy that on your player board, you will put a little cube. You'll take a cube off the card, and there might be 1, 2, or 2, I think minimum 2, 3, 4, or 5 cubes. I mean, if you can satisfy that pattern from 2 to 5 times, you'll get a bunch more points. And the more you can satisfy it, the higher the score. And so you're not only thinking, okay, I got to get the base points by chaining my mountains together or getting a longer river, but you're also like, okay, I've got these 3 cards with all these cubes. And if I can get all these cubes off these cards onto my player mat, I'm going to score big points by the end of the game. It's a game that only takes 30 to 45 minutes. It plays 2 to 4 players, and it flies by. There's some interesting choices and decision. There is some player interaction. It's mostly heads down, but you're also keeping an eye on what other players are doing and try and inhibit them from getting the cards or the tokens that they want. And the game ends in one of 2 ways. Basically, when your player board has 2 or fewer vacant spots, that triggers the last round of the game. Or when all of those circle tokens that come out of a bag, 3 at a time as you're replacing the spots, when those dwindle and are emptied, that's the other way the game can end. So I've been playing this with my family. Both my kids love this game. I've been playing it with gaming groups. I haven't played it with anybody who has disliked the game so far. I think it's a pretty accessible game. If you like Cascadia or Azul but want something a little chunkier with a few more interesting decisions, I think this will hit your sweet spot, and I highly recommend it. It's Harmonies. I think you played this one too, Matt.
Yeah, I also picked it up, and I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's like it's like a natural evolution of like these tile placement games where it's like Cascadia, but we're going 3D, and we're kind of fulfilling these contracts, which are these cards, which will tell you that you need to set up your landscape in this very specific way, and it's very satisfying. Sometimes a card will say like you want a mountain next to a river, and then you get another card that wants a river next to a plain. So you reuse that river tile for multiple different of your cards that you have. And so it can be very satisfying, but at the same time, it's, I want to say like one skosh higher in terms of difficulty or crunch than Cascadia. Yeah. Cascadia is more that entry level. Right. This is a touch more complex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this was kind of a blind buy for me. I didn't really know anything about the game, but I saw the production company was Libelud. And
sorry, what's it called?
Libelud or Libelud? Libelud? I don't know. How do you pronounce it?
I don't know.
But they're from Quebec.
I just wanted you to say that again.
They're from Quebec. Libelud.
Libelud.
I think it's French Canadian.
Oh, if it's
from
French,
Quebec.
Libelud.
Yeah, Libelud.
Probably,
Yeah.
I would like to buy a hamburger.
I would like to buy a hamburger.
So, Dixit, very popular game. Mysterium, Dice Forge, Seasons. These are some of the games that they've produced. And so, all of which I've liked. So, it's one of those production companies where I see it, I'm like, I buy it. Nice. And it was like $40. So, it wasn't a bust situation. I was like, small box, interesting theme, artwork looked nice. Solid production company that time and time again I've enjoyed. So it's Harmonies. Check it out if you think you would enjoy it. I highly recommend this one.
Very cool.
Okay, so let's pivot. That's what we've been playing. Let's talk a little bit about what we've been watching. And here we are on Halloween. It's October, as we like to call it, Shocktober. So I know that sort of flavored. I think you're viewing, Matt. You were saying off camera you've watched some Halloween themed
Halloween
movies.
Is my favorite time of year.
Okay.
It's like October.
Yep.
It's fall, sweater weather. The heat,
Not around here lately.
Heat breaks.
Yeah.
NHL hockey starts. Kids go back to school.
Yeah.
Just so many great things that happen in fall, and Halloween is no. I'm a huge Halloween guy.
So that being said, you've got your letterbox open here. What have you been watching? You've been logging things on your diary. What have you been watching here in October?
Yeah, so really quickly, I'll run down some of the like thriller, horror kind of movies that I've been watching. So I've been watching It's What's Inside, which is a really cool movie on Netflix that I think a lot of people have fun with. You didn't like it, but it's getting a ton of great reviews. People generally are liking it. Death Becomes Her, an old Robert Zemeckis movie that I have a ton of fun with. Strange Darling, which is one you talked about in the last episode.
Great film.
The Substance. Missing, which is a really cool Netflix movie that completely takes place on somebody's computer screen.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
It's kind of a follow-up to one called Searching, I think.
Haven't seen that
where
one either.
somebody goes missing and the person, like, basically you're just on their computer screen. The entire movie is just on their computer screen. And they're like, they're Googling, they're calling, they're doing all kinds of things.
Searching, missing. Stay tuned for the trilogy Finding.
What I want to talk about today is Alien Romulus. So I just watched this. a few nights ago, and I
Fun
had
movie.
a lot of fun with it. Yeah, it's not like innovating. It's not doing anything like really super interesting with the genre, but it's just another great entry that we haven't really seen. Really great entries in the Alien series.
No, it's a bit of a comeback for the series
in
I
a
think.
little
Yeah.
while.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's. I mean, there's a couple of great performances from the two leads that I think is worth the price of admission alone. And there's one thing that stands out to me. There's a really neat scene. I'm not going to spoil it, but it involves zero gravity that I think is like just a really neat set piece and kind of
Very cool.
The one thing that I want to say is pretty innovative in that movie that I
Absolutely.
think is worth checking out alone. So if you're a fan of the Alien movies, you're not going to be disappointed. You're also not going to be blown away, but you'll have a good time with it.
Yeah, for me,
You've seen it.
I saw it on the big screen theater with my brother-in-law
Nice.
and didn't regret going to see it. It was one of the best theater experiences. This is not one of my favorite movies of the year, but I'm glad I did see it on the big screen. Kaylee Spaney and David Johnson are phenomenal in this.
Yeah.
Both the leads are great.
David Johnson especially.
Yeah, he's fantastic. The range, the versatility he needs for this role. He's playing sort of the android, familiar with the original Alien series. Bit of a callback to the original android as well. I won't spoil things, but he makes an appearance, kind of, sort of. So yeah, for me, like Aliens, and Prometheus are my top three. And this one would probably slot it as my fourth favorite.
Yeah,
some of the other ones, kind of
probably
middle of the
very
road.
similar ranking for me. Yeah.
Yeah, no, good one. Alien Romulus, and if you missed it on the big screen, I guess you can rent it or it's available via streaming now. So check that one out. I recommend it as well. I'm gonna get a little crazy with my recommendation, and I'm gonna preface this with saying this is not a typical movie that I would go for. Anything this
I'm surprised you like this.
Anything this bonkers usually doesn't appeal to me. Well, I'm surprised you like Midnight Mass so much too, so we'll get there. But yeah, it's called The Substance, and man, it's really hard to explain this one in 5 minutes or less, but I'll try. You've probably heard of it. It's been all over the place. It's been kind of a cult classic already, immediate cult classic. It stars Demi Moore. Yeah, she's making a comeback, apparently. And Margaret Qualley's in this, and Dennis Quaid. Those are the three most familiar faces in this. And basically, Demi Moore, in one of the boldest, most courageous performances I've seen in many years, I think, if I'm honest.
Great.
She is fantastic in this. If it wasn't so bonkers, I'd say, man, she should get a Best Actress
I'd
nomination.
like to see
but I don't know if the
it.
Academy's
I don't know.
going to go for this one. The screenplay is incredible. One of the best screenplay at the Cannes Film Festival. But basically, the long and short of it is, here's how I described it. Here's how I described it in my Letterboxd review. And maybe we should shout out our Letterboxd accounts. People want to follow us on Letterboxd, Matt.
Yeah,
Why don't we?
for sure.
Now's a good time to do that. We're always referring to Letterboxd. If you're not familiar with Letterboxd, letterboxd.com. I know it's primarily a board game podcast, but for those of you into movies, it's a place where you can sign up, you can get a free account, and it's basically a place where you can log your movies, like Matt's been doing, and recalling, what did I watch in October? And you can say, I watched this. You can give it a star rating out of 5. You can write a review if you want. You can follow others. And so you can look for me, Trip Advisor with 2 P's. That's my handle on Letterboxd. And Matt, you're simply Matt Cousineau. There you are, right? So
Yeah.
so you can find us there and track along. We'd love to interact there as well. So when I was logging this, I gave this 4.5 out of 5, which is bonkers for this type of movie. I wouldn't normally go for it. But it takes the best of David Cronenberg, and he's famous for his body horror films like The Fly. It takes the best of David Cronenberg style body horror and kind of mashes it up with Paul Verhoeven, Total Recall, RoboCop, the social satire that he has in those films, Starship Troopers, and he just kind of mashes that up, or she does, the director in this film, and with some beautiful cinematography. And basically the premise, the plot, in brief, is Demi Moore plays an aging, she plays a 50-year-old Hollywood star, but
Basically a version of herself.
Version of herself, yeah. She's 60 and she could easily pass for 50 in this. So she's this Hollywood sort of persona. It implies that she was maybe sort of a TV star or an actress. She's doing like aerobics videos, kind of Jane Fonda-esque late in her career. But she's 50 years old. And when you're 50 in Hollywood, you don't have much of a future.
Especially if you're a woman.
Especially, sadly. And that's what it is. Basically, the whole film, the deep deep story. The meta narrative of this is just portraying how difficult it is for women in Hollywood, and the beauty standards, the unrealistic beauty standards that are held for women in Hollywood. Not only Hollywood, but anywhere. Yeah. And so basically Dennis Quaid, who plays to perfection, I think, the studio
character.
Executive there. He's chomping on shrimp in this one scene.
He's
and it's just
disgusting,
gross, disgusting. Yeah. And he basically tells her, you're getting too old. We're going to replace you. And she has a bit of a crisis, an identity crisis. And she just has this conversation. She gets into a car accident. And it's all early on in the film. I won't spoil the rest of the chaos. But she gets in a car accident, and the young doctor, as they're checking her out, make sure she's okay, slips her a thumb drive, a USB drive, and says, check this out. This changed my life. And it literally says The Substance on it. So she goes home, pops in her computer, and sees almost this infomercial, this ad for this sort of DIY home kit that'll be delivered to your door called The Substance, which you can basically inject. Bonkers. You can inject it into your arm, this green goo, and what will happen is basically you'll give birth out of your back to a younger, more perfect version of yourself. Yeah, bonkers.
So out comes
Margaret Qualley, who is the younger, more perfect version of Demi Moore's character. And so for 1 week at a time, they can basically... One is conscious and active and alive, while the other one is in sort of a state of unconsciousness or stasis, I guess. Yeah. And each day you inject a little more of this goo to keep things going. And so she can live it up, and she gets hired to basically replace her. And she tells them, well, I can only work every other week because of the rules. And it says you are one, right? They got to respect the rules. But of course, not to spoil too much, but Margaret Qualley's just enjoying life, and she wants to kind of stretch and bend and break the rules a bit. And then it turns into a full-on body horror, and the final act of this film is absolutely bonkers and nuts, and there's gore and blood.
This is your jam. Stuff, and this movie,
it's a big
threw
swing.
Me for a loop.
It's a big swing, and maybe it's a little overstuffed in the third act, but she's going for it. So I gotta give her all the respect.
Yeah.
Again, I cannot recommend this to children. This is not one for everyone. It's
Do
pretty
not go
intense.
See this with your parents.
No. But kudos to the director. It's a French director, and kudos to Demi Moore in particular, along with Margaret Qualley and Dennis Quaid. It's a beautifully shot film, and she's just going for it. It's a big swing, and I respect that. It's nice to see something as original as this coming out from Hollywood. And, underneath the bonkersness of it, like, there is a powerful message to be told.
100%.
I think it's told well. It's as subtle as a sledgehammer, but it's a message that needs to be told.
I mean, it's disgusting in a multitude of ways. It's disgusting in the body horror.
Yeah.
But, like, this movie, directed by a woman, and, like, partial way through the movie, I was wondering, like, the message here is clearly, like, unrealistic body standards, men setting these unrealistic body standards and controlling too much of the message.
Power and control.
Misogyny, toxic masculinity, all of these things are in there. And obviously it's an important message. And part way through the movies, I find myself, like, gawking over these gorgeous women on screen.
Busted.
And, like... And then a moment later, I feel disgusting about it.
Yeah.
Because it's just like a weird, I was wondering why they were doing so much of these, like, clearly, like, what's the word I'm looking for when they're like, when you're like, the male gaze, I guess was the words or the phrase that I'm looking for. Clearly, this movie is trying to attract the male gaze, and then a moment later slapping you in the face,
and it does.
You're disgusting. I can't believe you're looking at this screen in this way.
And it's very effective.
Very effective. So that's the kind of the vibe and the reason that I thought this movie was really good, despite this, like, bonkers ending that you just have to see to believe.
It's one of the most bonkers endings in a film I can remember. Coralie Fargeat is the director. It's kind of similar to a movie that came out of France from Julia Ducournau called Titane. You've seen Titane?
I have, yes.
It's bonkers like that. In a sense, they're interesting sort of talking partners with interesting themes. But again, not for everyone, and typically not one that I would enjoy or recommend. So because it's pretty extreme. but the boldness of the performance, the cinematography is off the charts. And someone who just has this original vision for a film that is very rare. I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, no,
I don't know how much I'll be revisiting it.
Yeah,
but I
I'm
quite enjoyed it.
not sure I would revisit it. Not for a while, that's for sure.
Yeah,
But,
so that's the substance. If you're into something like that and you want to check it out, give it a look. And hey, I'm all for the Demi Moore Renaissance, and I think she's got some other movies lined up. So I'm happy to see her back in the fold, and she's gonna have a few more years, I think.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on and talk about our feature game for the podcast. So I'm excited about this one. Beast is a game that I picked up a few years ago, and I am a fan of the kind of it's hidden movement, one versus all.
Yep.
So you're looking at this huge map, and the one player plays the Beast. When, 1, 2, or 3 other people will play the hunters. And so we've got a huge map, we've got asymmetric abilities, and basically it's a hunt for a beast. So I thought it paired well and nicely with Midnight Mass.
Fits the
as
Halloween
there's this
theme.
like mysterious beast on Crockett Island.
Yep, good call.
Going around and taking care of his business.
Yep.
And this mystery behind it. For the most of the movie, he's hidden. We don't, not movie, but the show, he's hidden, and we don't see him till later in the
It's a
in the
very
series.
natural pairing. So
So I thought, I really wanted to cover Midnight Mass. It's like one of my favorite, miniseries or pieces of entertainment.
I noticed.
Yeah, I just,
how many texts did I get? How many we're doing this for Halloween? I'm not asking.
This thing. Yeah, so it's I kind of made it happen, but yeah, at first I thought it would be I wasn't too sure what we would pair with it, and I think the easiest fit would probably be Fury of Dracula. I had never played that one.
It's been a while for me, yeah.
But I owned Beast, and I thought it was more of a modern. Recent fit,
and it was my introduction to the game. We literally, this is the first time we've done this, like we played it earlier tonight. And so why don't we play it? It'll be fresh, my first play, and
get your first impressions.
Get my first impression at the same time, and it was good. It was good.
Yeah, so Beast, published by Studio Midhall in 2022, designed by Aaron Midhall and Elon Midhall. I presume they're brothers, as well as Asar Pedersen. It plays from 2 to 4 players in 60 to 120 minutes. It has a BGG weight of 3.01 and is currently at 7.5 rating on BGG, 1006 overall.
Which surprised me that it's outside the top 1,000. I thought it would be squarely closer to that 500 range. But
yeah,
it is a relatively new game, so maybe it'll make its way up.
I think the hidden movement genre.
You think the mechanism
is probably not that popular.
Sure.
I mean, even with myself, I love the genre.
Yeah.
It's not something that I play on a regular basis. It's something that I want to like bust out and play 2-3 times a year, maybe with the right crowd and the right moments.
Yeah.
Around Halloween, it's perfect to have like the tense moments of like running around and hiding and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, let me read a little game synopsis I found, and then maybe you can give the quick rundown because you played it a few more times than me. So here's, in a nutshell, the game synopsis, and I'll try and read it in my beastly voice here. Welcome to the Northern Expanse, a place where nature is still unexplored, mystical, and dangerous. When the humans first arrived, they thought they found an unspoiled paradise filled with bountiful forests, lakes swimming with fish, and cold fresh water flowing from the mountains. But as their settlements expanded and the surrounding forest grew thinner, nature itself pushed back. Great creatures known as beasts emerged, and with their fangs, claws, and mystical powers, they proved an incredible threat to the humans. In order to protect the settlements, humans enlisted specialized hunters tasked with tracking and killing the beasts before too many of their kin perish. Dun dun dun.
Right. So, as I said, it is a hidden movement, one versus all game. It plays over the course of rounds or days, either 3 or 4, depending on the player count. Each day begins with card drafting. Mm-hmm. So, I guess before we even get to that, each player gets to pick a character. So
yeah, and I love there was so many to choose from in this. There's so many beast options and hunter options, and you just randomly, or I guess you can manipulate which ones you pick depending on the player count. So I've only played it once, but I could see this being like really replayable because I could use this hunter or this beast, and yeah, so it was cool.
Yeah,
right out of the box. This was really cool. I got my attention right away.
It's gorgeous.
Oh man,
we have to talk about that
when we get to the things that we love about this game. The art is phenomenal
for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, everybody picks their asymmetrical character. So if you're a beast, it comes with a dual layered player board. Where you can unlock, and a screen, where that's where you're hiding your movements, on the board, and then you have, like I said, this dual layered player board where you can unlock abilities and powers and different things like that. And then the hunters, same thing. Each hunter comes with a little dual layered player board where they can unlock their own abilities and have their own strengths and weaknesses. Right. Each player also has a specific set of cards they start with that they'll be able to use round to round.
Yeah, I think the beast gets 4 and the hunters get 3 each round, or is that?
That's right. Yeah. So that's just their abilities that go with that creature, that asymmetric creature, or hunter for that matter. So then we go at the beginning of the game, or at the beginning of each round, there's drafting. So there's a big stack of action cards, and each action card has 2 different abilities on it. One if you're a hunter, one if you're the beast. So I thought that was a really neat mechanism.
Which is a great mechanism, because I found my first impression, it was nice because you're drafting and you're, on one hand, you're looking at, okay, this ability is great for me. But on the other hand, you're like, this is too good to let this card pass to the beast. Maybe it's not the best ability for me, but it might be for the beast, in which case you were the beast tonight. So it's some interesting decisions, the push and pull of, do I take it for my ability or to inhibit the opponent, the beast or the hunter's ability?
Yeah, that's right. So we draft the cards. You get a stack of 4 cards. You choose one. You pass it to your left.
Yep.
And you do that till you've got your 4 cards in addition to your starter cards that come with your character.
So you got a hand of 6, 7, or 8 right out of the gate, right?
Yeah. Another neat thing is that each card has a color. It's either teal or it's red. Yeah. And on your turn, you'll either discard any card, and that's called fleeing, where you just get to move 1 space. So if you just want to move, if you're the hunter towards the beast or where you think the beast might be, you can do that.
Because the board is like a bird's eye view of kind of an island, I guess, or a series of islands, landscape.
Yep.
And it's all interconnected. And so you have your standee on one of the places, and you can move around, flee, attack, different things you can do with these cards. So
that's right. And a lot of the cards will have movement, like you play them for their action and they'll let you move 1, 2, or 3 times, or whatever the action might be on that specific card. There's a multitude of different things that happen, or that can happen within these cards. But one thing that you can do is just straight up discard any card to move 1 space. But primarily the thing that you're doing is playing these cards, and you'll either play 1 or 2 cards on your turn. And as I said, all the cards are either teal or red, and you can only play 1 of each color on your turn. So you couldn't play 2 red cards back to back on the same turn.
Yeah.
Which is probably another balancing mechanism where they don't want you doing too much of the same thing.
Same action, one turn. And as I realized mid-game, look, in hindsight, right, as you're going into the drafting, you got to bear that in mind. You kind of want to balance how many blue and red cards. Because you have all blue or all red, you're only playing 1 card per turn. That can kind of slow you down.
That's right. Yeah, and it is important, I feel, especially as the beast, to be able to play 2 cards, because as the beast, a lot of the actions that you do will reveal where you are. So I call this a hidden movement game. So
you might only be hidden 60% of the game, right?
That's right. So that's a one thing that I found a little bit unique about Beast.
Right.
And then everybody kind of okay, it's a mad dash. Yeah. We're going to try to catch this person, or the person's trying to flee, and then, the game will end.
Yep.
In this game, the beast is constantly revealing themselves over and over again and then trying to disappear, which is a really an extra layer of tension, I found. So a lot of times, the first action that I do on my turn is to attack something, whether it's attack one of the hunters. There's a bunch of sheep, boars, and bears on the table that I can go after to gain rewards. Yep. And then there's settlers or actual like little meeple characters
In the little settlements, there's 3 settlements on the board.
on the
right?
board,
Yeah.
and the mission or I guess what would you call it, the
Well, I think there's different
scenario,
scenarios
I guess.
too,
Yeah.
right?
The scenario we played, in order for me to win, I had to kill 2 of
Two
the
out of
3
our
settlers. So every time you attack something, you reveal yourself.
Right.
And now the hunters know where you are. So you have to do that strategically. But then the second card I would play is the movement card to try to like mask which direction I've gone, so you don't know exactly where I am, but you have an idea.
So you have like a movement deck, and you can move east, west, north, south, or not at all, and you secretly put down, face down those movement cards. And there are some cards, at least in the hunter I was playing, where I could kind of get you to reveal your last 1 or 2 movements, try and give us a hint of which direction you're moving. So there's a lot of interesting decisions, not only what cards to play, but when to play them. And my partner and I, we were kind of interacting and kind of trying to share information and strategize together. At first I was like, this only takes place over like 3 days. How is this going to be like a 2-hour game? But when you're talking about it, there's a lot of strategy, and if you like interactive games, this is very interactive. Unless you're the beast, then you're just stuck on your own and you're lost to right behind your screen trying to figure out how do I survive, sweating it out. Yeah. But it's a fascinating game. Do we want to get into the general thoughts, or anything else? I guess you can pick up items too. There's item cards you can pick up.
Yeah, so there's kind of like there's
your beastly
2
abilities.
2
what are those
other
called?
decks. So
Yeah.
one deck that is called the items deck that the hunters have access
Yeah.
to, and they get them by playing their cards.
Certain
They'll say,
cards, access them.
get
Yeah.
yourself an item.
Right.
And some of the items are just abilities and things that you can do. Others are traps, so you can set traps on the board, and then if I walk into them, I take damage or take penalties or whatever.
Yeah,
the case
and those
is.
item cards, we should say, they carry over day to day, whereas the rest of your cards, if you use them or lose them, right? They go back into the action
That's
deck
right.
that gets reshuffled. You get your original cards back. You keep your items, but these action cards are constantly being drafted at the beginning of each day in the
That's
game.
right.
Yeah.
And then I have a very similar deck. They're called Beastly Talons.
Yes, the Beastly Talons.
And I have access to these cards through, playing my action cards or my beast ability cards. And again, those cards are, you can increase your hand and do more things or more interesting things. So yeah, basically as the beast, there's you pull out a scenario. The scenario tells you, okay, this is the setup. And pick your beast, pick your hunters, and then you go through this drafting and the card playing. And typically, what I'm doing as the beast is going around trying to fulfill whatever the contract is of the scenario. In this case, I was trying to kill 2 settlers.
And basically we could win either by killing the beast or just getting through day 3 without you satisfying your
my
win
condition. Right,
Yeah.
that's right. So the game is very tense. I was sweating the whole time. These guys were on my tail for most of the game.
Yeah, we got off to a good start, and that put you back a little bit.
Yeah,
which think
I
is
had to
probably
try to
rare.
be really careful because I was close to death almost immediately.
Halfway through the game, you were on life support. Yeah.
Yeah, so I had to try to, be more careful about masking my movements and only revealing myself when it was safe to do so. So there's a ton of tension there. And, I'm actually, after having played this game, I hadn't played it for probably a year. And after having played this game tonight, I feel like I want to get it to the table again soon.
Sure.
Because I feel like this was a learning game again for me.
Right.
And learning the cadence. One of the big things is not blowing your hand too early, because you can play 2 cards each turn. And it felt like that was the right thing to do a lot of times. But then getting towards the end of the round, I'm running out of cards that let me move, cards that let me attack. And if I get in a pinch,
you have nothing
my
to fight
options
back
are
or
limited.
defend. Yeah, we should say the round ends. Each round or day ends when each of the players passes. So if as sequentially in order, if you all 3 of you pass, meaning either you choose not to play a card or you physically can't play a card, that ends the round. So to your point, if you blow all your cards early as the beast, you're forced to pass. Well, the hunters may have a bunch of cards where it's like boom, 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 boom. We're going to track you down or attack. So there's some strategy about not simply what cards to play, but when and how fast to play them. So I found that interesting.
Yeah, so, and then each day, based on the scenario, there's objectives. So in the first round,
Yeah.
if the beast has accomplished this, they get these rewards. If the hunters have accomplished this, they get these rewards. So that there's rewards in the first, second round.
Yeah, it's almost like your currency. They're called like your
It's called the
grudge
grudge
tokens.
yeah.
And those grudge tokens you mentioned earlier on the dual layer player boards, the hunter and beast player boards, there are special abilities that you can access, and those cost a certain amount of those grudge tokens. So you can save a bunch up to get the strongest power or get a couple of the lesser powers, and that happens typically at the end of each round. So you're adding these asymmetrical powers, which make the game more interesting as well, because there's more threat of, there's some bigger damage coming. The beast can even get like a sword that gives you more hit points and whatnot. So as the game progresses, it sort of ramps up the tension because the abilities are building. And so there's, and also you had the ability as a beast to send out, to summon some other sort of minions,
so I have these like minion tokens or minion standees that I can go out to.
Zombie-like characters or whatever, and they could float around and do some damage too. So you got to keep one eye on where they are, what they're up to. So it was a lot going on. It was pretty interesting as a one versus many game.
Yeah, and generally the rules overhead not crazy.
No, pretty easy to
I
learn.
I taught you guys in 15 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, no time. It's kind of like, I mean, it's not Bus, but it's like similar to what you said with Bus, like not hard to learn, but you want to get it back to the table again right away because there's a lot of nuance, right?
That's right.
One thing we didn't do, I think, effectively that maybe we should have is be very intentional about sharing. Here's my 3 starter cards, Matt, just so you know. Here are my 3 abilities.
Right.
As a beast, here are your 4 abilities. Because I guess what happened out of the gate tonight is you moved 1, but maybe you didn't realize that my hunter had the ability to see your last movement. So I was able to see immediately which direction you moved. So we were able to get on your tail right away, get a couple hits on you. And that would have been mitigated if we just all knew very carefully, intentionally, what each other's starting abilities would be.
Yeah, I might have tried to mask my movements.
Master move or move further to get beyond what I could see and reveal. So, yeah. So why don't we talk about just general thoughts on the game, some of the things that we liked about it. Can I give you a couple of my first impressions?
Yeah, go for it.
My first gameplay tonight. So, I mean, just when you're opening the box, my jaw hit the floor even before it was on tail. Like, wow, this is beautiful. Because the box art is good, but inside it's like, I've played hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of games in my life. I don't think I could count on one hand games that look as beautiful with the artwork as this game does. The production design, the map is gorgeous. The art on the cards, even the standees are cool. Like, the
player boards.
The player boards are thick and really well designed. The production design is just off the charts in this game. The artwork.
Yeah.
So, but even before, I mean, but this isn't all style either. There's a lot of substance to this game as well, I found. So yeah,
for sure. Absolutely. One of my favorite games in terms of table presence and theme. I'm not a huge theme guy.
Okay. I think I am a little more than you.
Definitely. Yeah. No, I like good theme. Sure. In fact, the question was posed in a poll online, one of the many board game Facebook groups or whatever that I'm in, and the question was posed, theme first or mechanics first? And my answer was mechanics first, 100%.
My answer is yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're both important.
Sure.
But I think it's a situation where you can have great mechanics and bad or no theme and still have a great game.
Yeah, but if you have a great theme and bad mechanics, it ruins the game.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so that was kind of my answer. And I think this game gives you both.
Absolutely.
And it's dripping with theme and the art is gorgeous. So that's probably my favorite thing about it. But definitely the gameplay is a blast. I was sweating bullets and having a ton of fun trying to hide and run away and achieve my stuff.
I really like this style of game a lot. There are other ones that I enjoy. Going back to my childhood playing like Scotland Yard, and more recently you got me into Mind Management, Jaws, like not good artwork at all.
I'll have to play that one.
Amazing theme, and so just whether you're playing the beast or the shark in that game, or you're playing the collaborative group, there's always a great story to tell at the end of this game, right? Usually it's tight and it comes down to the wire, and it's a great time, right? There's a lot of interaction. That's what board gaming should be, the social experience that you're talking about or podcasting about as soon as you play.
Yeah.
Is there anything you didn't like about the game or held it back from being maybe one of your favorites?
Nothing specific. I think that it's just the genre is not my favorite.
Sure.
I like it.
That's
And it's the type of genre that like I said, 3-4 times a year, I want to bust out a good hidden movement game and have a good time with it.
not
and
3-4 times a week. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Where I'll bust out a mid to heavy Euro multiple times per week and
Beep beep like bus.
yeah, exactly. So I think it's just like the genre would hold it back from being like the
That's
perfect
fair.
game for me.
Yeah.
Because it's just
And
not.
that's
the
not a
kind of
fault
game
of
I
its
wanna play
own.
all
It's
the
just
time.
your
No.
personal preference, right?
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I've only played it one time, and I think probably this wouldn't happen repeatedly, but I found our game stalled a little bit near the end of the game just because we got off to such a unusually good start as the hunters.
Yeah.
I think because you were so wounded, you were just not revealing yourself as much as maybe would happen in a typical game. So there was a while where we were just passing and waiting for you to reveal. It's like, I pass, he passes, you do something, but you were hesitating to reveal because you only had one hit point left, and we had we didn't even talk about these traps. You can set traps in the game too on different sides of the board that can be triggered. We had a bunch of these traps down, and so you were kind of like, oh, is there a way I can win? And
Yeah, I
should
think it's a
concede?
situation where I had my back up against the wall really early.
Yeah, and I think that's a rarity. I don't think that would
Yeah.
happen 9 times out of 10.
And
That doesn't
despite
happen.
that, I still had a lot of fun.
You still had a lot of fun. You still were able to take out one of our settlers near the end, but then we got you and ran you down. But so I don't fault that. I think that's probably a one-off. I'm sure I'll get to the table again and really enjoy this one. So I think if you're into the genre, then
like card drafting, we barely talked about it, but it's just like such a fun mechanic.
yeah,
it's
especially
like-
with the dual abilities on each card, one for the beast, one for the hunter. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess that's the only way you can really do card drafting if beast and the hunters. I don't know how you would do it otherwise, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it would. Yeah, because we're just trying to do drastically different things.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
Yeah, so the artwork's there, the theme is dripping, solid mechanics, and a good story to tell when it goes back in the box. As we're
Yeah,
trying
and
to
if
do
you
here.
go over to my Instagram, Dice Camera Action, at Dice Camera Action, by the time this airs, I'll have a reel on there with a bunch of pictures. So if you want to check out the art, what it looks like, go over to my Instagram.
Yeah, and apparently they're already kickstarting some sort of expansion for this game. You're saying,
Yeah,
too,
it's
Matt? Live
already
now, right?
kickstarted. Yeah. It's not live now.
Oh, it's not. It's
no.
coming on?
I think they're fulfilling soon.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
If I'm not mistaken, or maybe already have. So I'll be looking for the expansion in retail to see if it's, what the price is like on that. I think there's already a ton of game
There's
in the
a
box.
ton of game in the box with all the different beasts and hunter variations and scenarios too.
Yeah, but if
And,
you're like completionist and you want more stuff, if it's reasonably priced, I'll be looking at the expansion for sure. It's called Shattered Isles, so check that out if you're interested. But I have not even looked at it because the first couple of times I took this out, I'm like, there's 6 beasts or something to play, and just as many hunters.
And so many hunters too, and scenarios, right? We should say the board is double-sided too. If you're playing 2 or 3 player, it's more of a smaller, tighter board.
Yeah.
If you're playing 4, much more expansive board
Flip
with
it
4
over, yeah.
regions versus 2 regions, and different scenarios. So tons of gameplay, tons of replayability, especially for you if you're only playing this half dozen times a year.
Yeah.
I mean, you're never going to get bored with this. I don't think you need to jump right into expansion, but hey, more power to you if you want to. Yeah, so
For sure.
Beast, good game. Final score, Matt? What do you give this out of 10?
I have it as an 8.5, which is probably close to the ceiling for this kind of game for me.
No, that's great. Just one-time play. I got it at a solid 8, just based on my single experience. That could go up or down, probably a little more higher, even upon revisiting it. I do appreciate this mechanic and genre game, maybe a little more than Matt does, and so I was really excited to play this. And my partner and I had fun too. The Hunter, we were taking some deep conversations. So if you don't mind waiting as each player or team is interacting, it can be a 2-hour experience. But an experience
I
you
will
won't
say
forget.
that waiting, as the person who's hidden, there's a ton of fun to be had just listening to the other people.
Yeah, because you can be very satisfied. Where
are.
they are, where they up to. You're like, nope, I'm nowhere near what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Or you're like, a couple times you were right under our nose.
You're either
We had
sweating or laughing or
and trying to keep your poker face on the whole
That's
time,
right,
right? Yeah, that's part of the fun. So awesome. That's Beast, our Halloween special. Give it a look if you think you'll enjoy that one. All right, so we're going to pivot now to not our film review, but as we mentioned, a TV series that came out a few years ago, 2021. Matt, a few weeks ago, you're like, okay, we're doing this for Halloween. So I'm like, all right, I'll rewatch it. So we both revisited it. Midnight Mass, written and directed by your guy, Mike Flanagan.
Yeah, huge fan.
So one of your favorite directors?
Absolutely.
He would be on your sort of Mount Rushmore of directors, living directors today, maybe? Or
Probably.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's high praise for sure. So he's directed this. Stars Hamish Linklater, Zach Gilford, Kate Siegel, wife?
Yeah.
That's Mike
Frequent
Flanagan's
collaborator and wife. Yeah.
and Samantha Slow, and among many others. But those are the heavy hitters. And basically, I'll give a synopsis of this, and I'm going to pass it over to Matt. You want to do a bit of a deep dive through some of the episodes. So I think there's 7 episodes in this limited release.
Yeah.
So the synopsis, in brief: a young man returns. That's Zach Gilford's character returns to his isolated hometown on Crockett Island. So little island, fishing island, hoping to rebuild his life after serving 4 years in prison for killing someone in a drunk driving accident. He arrives at the same time as a mysterious, charismatic young priest who begins to revitalize the town's flagging faith. However, the community's divisions are soon exacerbated by the priest's deeds while mysterious events befall the small town. So that's kind of in the nutshell synopsis. But Matt, why don't you kind of open this up a little bit? Spoiler alert, it's hard for us to avoid spoilers when talking about this. So if you don't want to be spoiled, maybe come back to the rest of this episode. And we both highly recommend Midnight Mass. But let's get into kind of a deeper synopsis. Let's talk about some of the episodes, Matt.
Well, before we do, I think we should preface this whole conversation.
Right.
Typically,
Yes, we should.
Typically, we try to stay away from political, religious or conversations.
That's not what this podcast is about. This is about
podcast.
board games and movies, or in this case, TV series.
Yeah,
But in this case, this is kind of the exception, right?
Yeah, it's so heavily, the theme of this show is so heavily revolves around faith, and around religion that like we couldn't do this conversation justice if we didn't discuss these things in a little bit more detail.
It's very autobiographical. Mike Flanagan has gone on the record saying this is by far his most personal thing that he's created.
Mm-hmm.
He grew up in a a loving Catholic family and environment for the most part. It wasn't dysfunctional. He doesn't have a lot of religious trauma like many. But nonetheless, he has since grown up and sort of walked away from that faith for a variety of reasons. And so you see a lot of his Catholicism and his background as well, the push and pull between belief and unbelief, faith or non-faith in this. And I think that's a reflection of Mike Flanagan's life. And it's interesting that we're talking about this together because we come at this from different perspectives and viewpoints as well.
For sure.
So just full confession, by vocation, I am a pastor. I am a minister of a church. It's one of many things that I do. And so I was very much intrigued to see sort of what angles are going to come at the religiosity and faith conversations in this. And I was kind of intrigued and surprised because that's not your jam, as far as faith and religion. But yet you, spoiler alert, Matt loves this TV series. And so I'm intrigued to kind of get your viewpoint too. So we'll try not to be preachy or over talk about religion, but it's hard not to in this because it's a running through line, and that very much is about this. And if you've seen anything else by Mike Flanagan, he doesn't shy away from including that very humanistic grief, shame, religion. Those are sort of sprinkled in most of his films.
For sure, yeah. And then myself, I guess on paper I would be considered atheist. Mm-hmm. So I don't believe in any sort of religion. I believe in nature and science. And that's just where I come from in terms of my belief. But I always struggle to use the word atheist because it's kind of gotten this reputation of being anti-religion, which I am not anti-religion. I think that it's great if people have belief systems and follow these things. I think it's fine.
As long as they're not harmful, like some of the characters in this film.
100%.
Yeah.
So as long as you're not hurting anybody and it's positive and it's a positive thing in your life,
Working toward flourishing,
more
then,
power to you. Like that, I think that's fantastic. So I'm not anti-religion in any way, shape, or form. I just personally don't believe it. In any religion specifically. So that's kind of where I come to this kind of like conversation. So I thought it was important to give you, and I think it'll be an interesting conversation for that reason, because obviously we're two very different sides of this coin.
Right.
So hopefully that'll flourish into an interesting conversation here about this show that is very much about those two types of people.
A lot of food for thought in this particular miniseries.
Yeah, so what I think I'll do is go through the major plot points episode by episode, and then we'll branch off into conversations as we go through.
Yeah, that sounds good. Just to give the kind of overview, the contours
because
of it.
typically in a film, there's only a handful of plot points and things that we discuss.
But this is pushing 500 minutes, not a 2-hour movie, right? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Each episode is an hour or more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so in episode 1 called Genesis, as you said, Riley shows up after being released from prison. He heads back to Crockett Island, and it's clear that he's haunted by guilt. So we see very early, every night when he kind of puts his head down on his pillow,
Nightmares.
he sees his victim.
Yes.
Standing there all busted up and mangled from this car accident. And we see like the flashing lights of ambulances and fire trucks and police kind of like flashing in his room, in his head, in his eyes.
Yeah, so even before he's released from prison, it actually starts at the scene of the crime, right? Right out of the gate.
That is the opening.
That's the opening, right?
Yeah.
He's sitting on the side of the road. You can tell he's just waking up. He falls asleep at the wheel. He's drunk, and they're doing CPR on the victim, and she dies.
Yeah, and you hear the cops saying something along the lines of, typical, the guy who causes this has barely a scratch on him, or something like that.
Yeah, something to the effect of where he's like saying, "Oh, please God, no God, no God," and the EMS workers like, Yeah, well, you're praying to God. Maybe you can ask him, why it's always the children who die and the drunks get away with it, right?
Yeah.
Or something to that effect. So that basically sets the religious tone. Boom, right out of the gate. There's going to be interesting religious questions and themes being explored here.
Yeah, so in this episode, there's a whole bunch of table setting. We meet a bunch of characters. A few of the key characters we meet. One is Erin Green, who's a young woman who had also left the island to go and pursue whatever, and then kind of came back pregnant in this mysterious pregnancy that she had left the guy or whatever the
running
case
from
is.
a toxic, abusive relationship, basically. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. And then we also meet Father Paul, who is filling in for Monsignor Pruitt, who was the long-running, pastor.
Like 40, 50 plus years, apparently, in a small sort of St. Patrick's Parish, where a lot of the actual series is set right in the church building.
That's right. So he shows up and he tells everybody in town that he's filling in for Monsignor Pruitt, who's fallen ill, and he's on the mainland. He's at a hospital recovering, and he'll be back soon. In the meantime, Father Paul is going to handle things on the island at St. Patrick's. And he has this giant trunk with him that he drags into his home that is kind of a little bit of mysterious
trunk
around it.
And also, trigger warning, all you cat lovers, if you're a cat lover,
skip the last couple of minutes of this episode.
You may not like the first episode of this, because
so the final scene of the very first episode is that they wake up one morning and there are dozens and dozens and dozens of dead cats washed up on shore, and they appear to be drained of blood, and all just kind of dead on the shore, and all the birds are kind of
the seagulls are picking away at them there, and it's a bit of a mystery. So that's kind of how the episode 1 ends. A bit of a cliffhanger there with all these dead cats on shore.
Yeah. So episode 2, called Psalms, opens with an almost 8-minute shot. I don't know if you remember specifically that scene. But and it's not the first time that Mike Flanagan's done these like long takes.
Yeah.
Which I'm always a fan, and it's weird because it always takes me a minute or two to realize, 2 to 3 minutes in, or maybe shorter than that. I'm like, has there been a cut yet?
Yep.
Like, and then, sure enough, something like almost 8 minutes later, we're still in the same shot. And basically we're going along this beach. We're meeting the sheriff.
Mm-hmm.
We're meeting the mayor of the town, as well as a bunch of other people from the village that, come out to see what's going on, and a bunch of discussions about what this could be, and is it a disease, and
Sure.
et cetera, et cetera. So this mystery around like what's going on with these
the cats. Yeah. We meet some other characters as well, right?
Yeah, we meet Lisa, who's a young teenager, a high school aged woman in a wheelchair, and we find out that she's been shot in the back by the town drunk called Joe in a hunting accident a year or two prior. And so, that's kind of set up, and we meet this town drunk Joe, who's incredible. Like this, we should probably look up his name. But
he has some good scenes where he can really chew things up, and he just plays the stereotypical town drunk, the outsider. Not only is he a drunk, but he's someone who's committed a heinous crime that everyone on this small island, and he is constantly reminded of as they see young Lisa in a wheelchair. And so that perpetuates his shame and guilt and feeds into his addiction as the town drunk. And so, he does a really good job. We should say also that the sheriff sticks out like a sore thumb too on the island, because in this small sort of cloistered, most Catholic Christian community, he is Muslim, he and his son.
Yes.
And so they're, depending on some of the other characters we'll talk about, he's sort of marginalized too. And there's some bit of racism going on, or religious stuff that goes on with him and his son throughout the film. So
and then Father Paul is talking to Riley at kind of this little town. I think they call it the
recreation center, named after Pruitt, right? The Pruitt Recreation Center.
This is where he wants to set up the AA meetings. And at the end of the episode, Father Paul tells Lisa to stand up and walk. So there's this, they're in church. And Father Paul's doing his sermon, and then after the sermon, he's giving the host.
Giving the host. I should say this whole series is in the Christian calendar. It's during the season of Lent, the 7 weeks leading up to Easter, which begins with Ash Wednesday. The ashes and the sign of the cross on the forehead. So early on, it's Ash Wednesday, and it's clear this is going to be during the season of Lent. And during one of his homilies, where they're having the Eucharist, communion with the bread and the wine, or the host and the wine, rather than going to give it to Lisa, he says, "No, come to me."
Yeah.
And she
stand
up, and she gets out, and she's kind of wobbly, and he says, "No." And he actually goes up the stairs, and he gets her to literally walk up the stairs. And so, I mean, and the church is pretty empty. Like every day, there's very few people showing up, and this is a catalytic event.
Maybe a dozen
this
people,
miracle changes the dynamics of everybody on the island. So it's a pivotal scene in this episode too.
Yeah, so that's kind of the cliffhanger of episode 2, where he performs this miracle, and somehow Father Pruitt knew that she was going to be able to stand up out of her wheelchair and overcome her paralysis. The kind of a big moment there. So then that wraps up episode 2. Episode 3, called Proverbs.
Can I just interject on these episode titles?
Yeah.
And so maybe some of you aren't familiar, but each title of the episode is referring to a different title of a book in the Christian scriptures, the Bible. And thematically they fit. Proverbs is all about wisdom, and so there's some wisdom in this episode. Genesis means beginning, Revelation is the end, and so each of the 7 episodes progresses through various books or portions of the Christian Bible. And in each episode, when the priest is giving his homily, or other characters are often quoting from these particular portions of the Bible, so they're woven into the fabric of the narrative in kind of neat and interesting ways. So yeah, episode 3 is entitled Proverbs, which is sort of
very cool.
filled with
these words are just like religious words to me. I didn't realize that.
But
so
they very much fit with the fabric of the narrative essence of each episode, which I found very fascinating.
Yeah, very cool. So at the beginning of episode 3, so this is where things actually start to
episodes 3 to
happen.
5 is really the sweet spot for me of this particular series.
100%. So Father Paul goes to confession. So he goes into the confessional. He's alone, but he's talking to God. He's talking to himself, and confessing his sins. And he tells the story of Monsignor Pruitt, who is the resident,
long-time resident priest who allegedly is ill on the mainland.
That's right.
Yes.
So he starts to kind of give a confession about how he's been lying to everybody in the town, but he's doing it for good reasons. This is at the beginning of the episode,
right?
And so we're getting a little bit of foreshadowing, and we don't know yet what exactly it is that he's talking about. Fast forward a little bit. Father Paul is not well. He faints in church. We haven't talked about Bev Keane yet, so maybe give us a quick rundown of who this Bev Keane character is.
So, I mean, her name could have been Karen. Like some of the first time I watched this, I was kind of groaning at kind of the caricatures of something. Oh, you got the Muslim sheriff and the town drunk, and Bev Keane is the most nasty, toxic, judgmental, pious, self-righteous sort of religious person you could ever craft in a film. And basically Flanagan takes the worst of toxic religious behavior and thrusts it into this character's arc.
And man, is she good at it.
She just nails it.
She's
just
unbelievable.
Nasty. It makes my skin crawl, because as someone who works in a church, I'm trying to be the persona of something very much the opposite of this, but she is just the darkest, meanest, self-righteous, nasty, and preachy, judgmental, Islamophobic. I mean, so this is Bev Keane, but yet she's the one who basically runs the church. Now, the priest is the head honcho, but she's right there trying to do her duty and make sure everyone's coming to church, and she's got her nose in everybody's business and the town gossip. I mean, she
is like you just can't even stand this woman. She is the primary villain of this.
Oh, without a doubt, she is the villain of this.
And I put her in the same category as Joffrey, King Joffrey from Game of Thrones, in terms of like hateable villains.
Yep.
Because there are plenty of villains that are just like fun, and they're evil. But they're not hateable, like Joker or Hannibal Lecter. Like these, all these kinds of different villains are not necessarily hateable. They're like, it's fun to be in their presence.
Right.
Whereas Bev Keane and Joffrey,
every time she's on screen, it gives you
want to reach through the.
Kind of like I mentioned earlier, kind of like Nurse Ratched in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. That from the 70s? Very similar persona. It's very mean. Mean-spirited.
So we get this really great scene with the sheriff and his son, where the son has been, because the son is high school aged and is friends with Lisa, who just had this miracle, and there's all this buzzing about like this miracle and this great charismatic new priest, Father Paul, in town, played by Hamish Linklater, who's incredible.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
So anyways, the Muslim son is talking to his father about possibly going to check out St. Patrick's Church to see what all the fuss is about.
Right.
So they have a really, really interesting
heart-to-heart
there that I thought was just a great conversation between a father and son. So we find out that the mother, who's not in the picture, passed away from, I believe, colon cancer.
pancreatic, maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, some form of cancer.
A bad cancer.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the son talks about how he wants to go check out church because of these miracles and how he's saving people and people are being spared and healed and whatever the case. And the sheriff talks about how, like, what he never told his son the details of what his mother had gone through.
Right.
He says, like, I wanted to spare you those details, but you do not understand the pain and suffering that this type of cancer put your mother through.
And if God really worked that way, if he decided that he was going to heal some people and not others, if he chose to spare some and not others, if he handed Lisa Scarborough a miracle, but let a child die of a brain tumor across the way on the mainland. No, that's not how it works, Ali. It's not. That's not how God works. No matter how exciting the stories are at St. Patrick's, or the Buddhists, or Scientologists, it's not magic. It's not.
So he uses the words "God does not work that way."
I found throughout the whole narrative flow of this, I mean, it was depicting very much a traditional classical understanding of God, a God who is maybe distant and unaffected by humanity and creation, but every once in a while will intervene and seemingly arbitrarily work and bring a miracle or a healing.
Which can seem completely unfair. Right?
Which is unfair, and which I've personally, I don't believe in that caricature of God at all.
Right.
But yet that is the God that's being sort of deconstructed by the characters and obviously Mike Flanagan.
Yeah.
Because it's very autobiographical. And so
we should say Mike Flanagan himself is atheist at this point.
Yes.
So just
but not angry atheist. I think like you, he's sympathetic and he
sure.
sees value in religion, but he's just not there himself. Yeah. But he grew up there, and so he's very conversant with the understanding, the church, the rituals, the scriptures. I mean, each episode has a name of scripture,
and that's one of the reasons I have a huge amount of respect for a work like this. Like coming from an atheist, he's not putting the belief in religion on this, like,
no, what he's
not portraying it in a negative way necessarily.
What he's interrogating is toxic forms of it,
right?
How we can turn something good into evil and something we think is good, and that's the whole meta narrative of this. Where we're heading in this is that we can see something as being very angelic when it's anything but, right? Yeah,
absolutely, yeah. And I listened to part of an interview today with Mike Flanagan where he talks about he felt it was really important to have really great, respectful, and I'm paraphrasing here, but great, respectful depictions of people and their faith. Yeah. In very positive ways, which we see in a multitude of different scenes.
Absolutely.
Which I thought was very moving.
And I think he
shows both sides.
And he walks the line. He walks that razor's edge. I think there's enough here to attract both religious people and non-religious people, and enough to upset religious people and non-religious people.
100%.
And I think that's the
For
beauty
me,
of
that's
this,
great
right?
art.
Yeah.
You know, we can have these types of conversations because of that fine line.
He walks that fine line, and he does it quite well.
Yeah, so he has this, the sheriff has this great, monologue, which is Mike Flanagan's known for his monologues. Love it or hate it.
Maybe one or two too many in this series, but I love them nonetheless.
Some people feel that way for sure.
Yeah.
But the ones that work so well for me that it just kind of overcomes.
Absolutely.
Maybe
Agreed.
Maybe few too many. But yeah, so the sheriff has this great monologue about a very emotional monologue, a great performance, where he talks about, God does not work that way. Mm-hmm. He doesn't just choose to save this person, but not that person, which seems completely unfair.
And I agree, which is interesting. That's coming some of the most profound monologues, and I think theological religious truth truth are coming out of the mouths of the Muslim sheriff, are coming out of the mouths of Riley, the one who's struggling with his faith, right?
That's
they have
right.
some of the most profound things to say in my mind, whereas Bev Keane,
In
I
the
want
best
nothing
way.
to do with her God or religion, right?
No.
Yeah.
And then we get another great performance from Hamish Linklater, Father Paul, where he puts forward this like great performance doing a sermon. And it's great how you get to see. One thing that I found fascinating is you get to see him through these sermons and these speeches to the community, to his community, and where he's planting seeds.
You can tell he's got a bigger picture in mind. There's
Yes.
some sort of overarching goal here.
And he's trying to prepare people for what is to come, which we'll obviously get.
Yeah, because he seems like a very likable, innocent person at the outset. But even by episode 3 and some of these speeches, you start to think, okay, there's more than meets
What's
the
going
eye.
on
Especially
here?
with
Like,
the
what is
confessional. What's he been lying to these people about, right?
Yeah.
It's a bit of a mystery at this point. But episode 3, where it really started to hook me.
Yes, yeah. And then we get the forgiveness scene between Lisa and Joe,
Powerful.
which
Very powerful.
this scene choked me up like unbelievable. The two performances are just unreal. Find the names of these two actors because we got to give them some credit here.
Yeah. So the daughter, played by Anara Simone is her name. And Joe's played by Robert Longstreet. And
who's done other work with Flanagan.
Yeah, a
before.
lot of the regulars here, and there's a lot of Flanagan's regulars. Can I read a powerful part of this?
Please.
So basically, she walks in, and this guy doesn't go to church, so he wasn't in the church to witness this miracle,
Right.
because he's kind of on the
You know
outskirts
what?
of town. He's a drunk,
It
right?
didn't even occur to me.
Now, and this is soon enough after that word probably it's reached everywhere on the island but him, because he's kind of a recluse. He's battling guilt. He's half drunk half the time.
Yeah.
And she just literally walks into his house, and the look on his face, his jaw literally almost hits the floor.
I made a note of that because like she
Yeah.
bangs on the door
Yeah.
and he's watching TV.
Yeah, he's like, "Rah, get out of
leave
here,
me
rah,
alone,
leave me alone,
whatever,"
right?
yeah.
He just wants, yeah.
And then
who else
he
is here to
he
like yell at
rushes
me?
over and violently opens the door.
And
ready
all
to
of a
scream
sudden, it
at the
almost basically
person.
literally knocks him over. Just
Yeah.
the sight of her out of her wheelchair.
Yeah, this guy's
he being the
performance
one
here-
who put her in the wheelchair through his hunting accident, and she just lays into him. She's
It's
angry.
so brutal.
And she literally says that. She says, "You stole from me."
Sorry.
Damn right you're sorry! You stole from me. Not just who I was, but who I could have been. You stole from me things I didn't even have yet. You reached through time, Joe Colley. You reached through time and you stole. All of that is true. And all of that is still in here, but that's not why I came here today. I came here today. I came here today. I forgive you. I forgive you, Joe Colley.
And then she just starts crying. "I forgive you. I forgive you." And he just loses it in that moment, right?
Yeah,
'Cause
his face.
That's a way to cut through his shame, right? It's just that offer of forgiveness. And that's the best, I think, of at least religion, as I understand it, is this, and it's not unique to religion, right? To be a forgiving person, to offer and receive forgiveness and cut through that shame. It's one of the most powerful scenes in the whole 7 episodes, in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting choked up just
Yeah.
thinking about it,
Yeah.
hearing you talk about it.
Yeah.
Extremely powerful. And his performance, man, like, just blew me away.
Yeah, well.
I wish you would see more awards go out for these, like, tiny performances.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, he
It's
didn't make
always
it far
bigger.
past this episode, so
Yeah,
spoiler
that's
alert.
true. Yeah, but I thought that scene was incredibly powerful. Maybe the most powerful scene in the entire movie. And she's so mean to him and lays into him. And he can't even speak. He's not even mad at her the way that she's speaking to him. He just makes these grunts and these noises, and it's just like so difficult to watch in the best way. And then she says, "The only thing standing in my way was hate, and the only thing standing in your way is you. If I can forgive you, you can forgive you, which I thought was like
Very powerful.
incredible.
Excellent, superb writing and dialogue in some of these monologues for sure.
Yeah, so we find out the story of what happened to
This
Monsignor.
is all at episode
Well,
3. This is where the
So
magic starts happening.
It's
yeah.
like this episode.
Yeah. It just builds in the first 2
floored
episodes,
me.
and then boom,
yeah,
here
so
we go.
good. So now we cut back to the confessional where Monsignor Pruitt continues his confession. And why don't you walk us through what happened to Father Paul / Monsignor Pruitt,
Pruitt,
you know, when he went to Jerusalem.
Yeah, so we found out that he goes to Jerusalem. I guess they sent him to Jerusalem as on his bucket list, as it is for many people, that holy city with all of its rich history for those in the Jewish faith and Christian faith. And he wanders off and he finds himself, I mean, he's battling dementia, we should say.
Right.
And it's beyond what people think.
It's worse than,
It's
yeah.
worse than people think.
Yeah.
So he's battling this dementia, so it's easy for him to wander off from his tour group, and he finds himself wandering off into this cave. And this dark, dreary, dingy cave. And in this cave, he discovers
An angel.
what he assumes is an angel. It's a hideous looking angel.
Yeah.
It doesn't really look what I would envision an angel to be, but nonetheless, and this angel, what happens next with this? This is the first sort of gruesome scene.
Yeah.
In this.
So the
right? This is
angel
where-
brutally attacks him.
Yes.
Kills him, basically. Bites into his neck. And
like angels do, right?
Yeah,
Yes, with their
exactly.
fangs biting into necks.
That's
Must
right.
be an angel. Wink, wink.
And then for reasons that I guess we'll never know, the angel decides to save Father Paul / Monsignor Pruitt by cutting his own wrist and then having the priest drink his blood.
Which sort of rejuvenates him,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So then he wakes up the next morning and he walks out of that cave.
He wakes up the next morning 50, 60 years younger.
Exactly. So he's no longer an old man. And so we realize, Father Paul isn't a different person. It's the younger version of Monsignor Pruitt.
That's right.
And then later on, we see a portrait on the wall in his residence.
Yeah. Bev Keene's looking at it.
Looking at it like, wait a minute.
Yeah, putting the pieces
Putting
together.
the pieces together, right? So it's sort of this rejuvenating ability via this angel to bring basically the fountain of youth and bring life back.
Yeah. So then we get a scene where we're now in Monsignor Pruitt's house with Bev Keane, and I believe the mayor is there with his wife.
Yeah.
And the priest dies.
Yeah.
He had been not feeling well. He fainted in church.
He's spitting out blood.
He's looking pale. He's not looking well, and he dies. And then it's very clear with the close-up shot that we see of his face, which is like a terrifying shot with these bloodshot eyes. It's fairly clear that he's dead, and everybody's kind of standing around and they're shocked and they check his pulse and they're like, "Oh my God, he's dead!" And then he wakes up.
All of a sudden, he just like
Another
sits up, right?
miracle.
Another miracle, right? Even more profound than the first, right? Someone who was clearly dead and is now resurrected, right?
Yeah, so that kind of marks the end, and that's our kind of our stinger at the end of episode 3.
And that's, I mentioned this is during the season of Lent, which is all about leading to the death and resurrection of Jesus in the Christian faith. So death and resurrection is the theme, the religious theme, but it also is literally happening through the life of the priest here.
Yeah, and we talked about how Lisa was had a miracle during the portion of church where you like quote unquote drink from the body of Christ and eat from the body of Christ.
Well,
I'll be out here with this terminology.
This is where things are different. Like, I'm not in the Catholic tradition. They believe it somehow mysteriously is the literal body and blood of Christ.
Okay.
In the ceremony, it somehow gets transformed to become the literal body in Christ.
Sure.
In my tradition, the non-Catholic Protestant tradition, we don't believe it's the literal body and blood of Christ. It's sort of a symbolic reminder. We believe that God is present in that act, but it's not not literally the body and blood.
course,
So there's
yeah.
there's some nuance and difference, but in the Catholic tradition, yes, some way, shape, or form, it becomes the literal body.
Right,
blood
and the
of
reason I
Christ.
bring that up is because in this interview that I was listening to in Mike Flanagan's youth, when he was in a Catholic school,
Very much involved, yeah.
they were talking about this literal drinking of the blood of Christ and eating from the body of Christ and all this stuff, and he said he used the word vampiric. He said that just seemed vampiric to me.
Exactly.
And then later on, he
not a
talks
stretch
about
to-
having compared Jesus to a zombie and mentioning the word zombie in school and in church, and how the nuns were like taken aback and upset with him.
These
and
are the
he
seeds
got
of
in
Mike
trouble.
Flanagan becoming a great horror director.
Yes, I
right?
thought it was
Vampires and
a
zombies.
really great
Thank
interview.
his Catholic school upbringing
And
for
you
this.
can
yeah.
see it all come through in this in this show.
So that's the end of episode 3. We've got 4 more episodes to go.
Yeah. So episode 4, Lamentations. Aaron goes in. So Aaron, who had played by Kate Siegel.
Kate Siegel, Mike Flanagan's wife.
Yeah.
The one who was
had been
pregnant, right? Yeah.
And she was going in for a routine ultrasound. So the ultrasound is actually no, she wasn't going for an ultrasound. They were just listening. It was a checkup, and she wasn't supposed to do an ultrasound in that
There's
that
nothing to
meeting
hear.
or not.
Yeah.
And then so the doctor's listening for the baby's heartbeat, and there's nothing there. So she's like, "Oh, maybe we will do an ultrasound. We'll just take a peek and see what's going on." And so she takes a look, and there's no baby, and it's not like.
So of course she's thinking, obviously you miscarried, right?
Right. So it's
That's
a
the only
doctor,
solution,
a doctor
right?
of science,
Yeah.
a doctor who thinks logically and
Sure.
whatnot. So the doctor says, "Well, you must have had a miscarriage," and Aaron says, "Well, I didn't. I
miscarry,
didn't
right?
miscarry. I would know, right?" And then the doctor says, "Well, as far along as you were, like, yeah, you should have seen
Was
something.
it
You should
Tiny
have felt
Foot, or
something."
what did she call the pet name for her baby? Was it Tiny Foot?
Littlefoot.
Littlefoot. Yes, sorry,
Littlefoot,
Littlefoot. Yeah.
Yeah. So the baby's gone mysteriously, like just non-existent. And then we cut to
This is a shock. This is traumatizing.
Well, of course, yeah.
I mean, and Lamentations, that's where we get our English word lament. So it's all about lamenting, sadness, shock.
Okay.
So this whole episode personifies that book of the
Interesting.
Bible. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So then we cut to Pruitt sitting in his bedroom after having been resurrected, and he is not looking well. He's sitting on the edge of his bed, and he is looking very sick. He's hungry, and then he reaches his
stretches out his
hand
hand.
out into the sunlight as his hand burns. And
I wonder
then
what that's all about. Yeah.
something happens with his hand where there's blood.
Yeah.
And
He
he's
starts
like
sucking his
starts
own blood.
sucking his own blood from his hand, which is really strange. And then Joe, who has been going to
Wrong place, wrong time,
yeah.
Joe.
Joe, who's been going to AA meetings.
Yeah,
with
he's been
Father
joining
Paul
Father Paul and Riley.
and Riley. Yeah.
Making progress in his
Absolutely,
sobriety, right?
and like obviously, we presume that this is due to the
Lisa,
conversation.
right? He's
with
got a
Lisa.
new lease on life now. He's forgiven by her.
Yeah, and he's
Yeah.
trying to work on forgiving himself and whatnot.
Yeah.
Which is like a great portrayal of like what
And then Mike Flanagan gives us a punch in the gut.
of course, yeah. He's so good at doing that. So Joe shows up at Pruitt's house, and he says, like, I had a really tough day, and you told me that if I ever had the urge, that I could always come here and talk to you.
Yeah.
And Pruitt's not doing well. He's looking like he's gonna like.
But previously,
Die again.
he'd been doing house visits. He's all over the place, checking in with people.
Yeah.
The mother of the doctor, we haven't mentioned her yet. He's going
Yeah.
to give her the Eucharist because she's too old and frail to
Yeah.
come to the church services. So he's been making these house calls. And even Joe, right? Open invitation, Joe. And sure enough, Joe picks this moment of all moments
Yeah.
to show up on his doorstep.
So Joe shows up, and Father, I guess they embrace because Joe's having a really difficult time and he's emotional, and Father Paul, kind of hugs, I guess, and then his like vampiric, I guess,
his urges
like,
and impulse come out.
He
and
can't let go.
Can't let go.
He just
right?
like
takes over him, right?
Yeah, it takes him over, and he can't help himself, and he's just like grabbing him, and he won't let go. And then finally, Joe tries to break loose, and he falls and smacks his head against the corner of a table or something.
No,
and
the floor, the hardwood
it
floor,
was the
hits
floor,
his head,
okay.
and then the blood starts gushing
and he's
out.
dead. Like immediately, he's just dead.
And then there's a bit of the bloodlust that comes out from Father Pruitt.
And so
he
he's
starts
like
feeding
clearly
on it.
shocked, but immediately cannot help himself and starts drinking that blood off the floor. Which
This is where we're really clearly starting to see this is becoming a vampire story.
Yeah.
Right?
So not an angel?
Not an angel. And yet
Okay,
the word
got it.
vampire is not mentioned once.
Not one single time.
Intentionally in this entire miniseries.
Yeah.
We come back to that and talk about a little bit why that is the case.
Yeah, and then so the next morning, there's supposed to be mass. And everybody's sitting in church, including Bev Keane, and they're looking at their watches.
All right, yeah.
So Bev, goes to check it out. She walks in and she sees
Large
Joe.
and in charge.
Joe's
laying
corpse
there.
is
right there.
Not a drop of blood left on the floor.
Yeah.
And Father Paul's sitting in the corner,
Just covered in blood around his mouth.
wondering. And Bev's like, "What the heck is going on here?" So she quickly closes the door behind her, and she takes over. And like, I mean, I don't.
She doesn't chastise him whatsoever. She doesn't judge him. She just feels this is another act of God, right? Because in her mind, God is simply a God of love,
through Father Paul.
but God is also a God of vengeance, of wrath, and God is judging Joe. This was the town drunk. He had it coming.
Yes.
This is God's vengeance and judgment upon Joe, and you got to pull yourself together and keep bleeding. And look at all these people are coming to church now, and so it's you start to see the real Bev come out if you haven't already.
So
at this
Bev goes
point,
back to church, excuses everybody, says sorry, Father Paul's not well, he's
yeah.
sick or something,
Yeah.
and then has the mayor and Sturge, who's kind of like, I guess,
one of the grunts,
a minion,
yeah,
for lack of a better term.
the jack of all trades, yeah.
Yeah, so she brings the mayor and Sturge into the place and starts barking orders like roll them up. You're gonna, tie them to some rocks or something. And you're gonna take them 5 miles out and you're gonna dump them in the ocean.
They've got a bit of a better moral compass than she does, and so they're hesitant. But she just overpowers them and tries to justify it all and fit it into her.
And we get the most Bev Keane speeches of all Bev Keane speeches, weaponizing the Bible.
Big time.
In the most cringe-worthy, painful, unbelievable way.
And yet profound, painful yet profound, because it does very much personify that stream of thought. I'm teaching a course right now at the university on religion and violence, and I might even use this clip with my students because it takes the worst of how the Bible and Christianity can be weaponized, right? To judge, to do harm, to do violence. It's sad, but it's so true, and I think Flanagan wisely he does no holds barred. He's just funneling it all through this Bev Keane character, and it really comes out in this particular scene.
Yeah, and then so I guess everybody kind of just follows along. I mean, there's these miracles, and Father Paul is clearly working. God is working through Father Paul.
There's no critical thinking. There's no questioning. It's kind of just a blue-collar island, right? No critical thinking here. It's just, we've seen the miracles. Let's all just in lockstep walk along with this group think led by Bev.
We have this interesting scene where the doctor is wanting to analyze Aaron's blood, and so she took some blood samples, and then her blood samples, the sun kind of gets exposed, and then they explode,
spontaneously combust,
just
right? It just lights on fire, right? Yeah.
So that was kind of an interesting little touch, and then we get another really powerful scene full of monologues.
Is that the monologue about death? What happens after you die?
Yes. So Riley and Aaron, I guess since we haven't talked about it much, but Riley and Aaron
bit of a history and
have a bit of a history, and
they're
they're rekindling their friendship / potential romance. So they're hanging out together, and Riley's providing some much needed support because Littlefoot has just been lost, and Aaron's really struggling with it. So this is so basically what happens is that they end up talking about death.
Yeah.
And what happens when you die. And Riley, being an atheist, and Aaron, being a believer, have very different views about what happen when you die.
Yeah, so Riley's just talking literally about physiologically, scientifically, what happens to the body and
Neurons firing,
and the synapses firing there in those
you
final
dream
moments, right?
more than you've ever dreamed, and like this really fantastic monologue about which I, as also an atheist, feel it just felt like it's something that could totally work and make sense. Like I can be on board with that, which I thought was really interesting. And then we get Erin's kind of monologue about what she thinks might happen after death and where Littlefoot might be gone. Yep. And she talks about heaven and ascending and being with others in your family that you loved and reuniting with loved ones and being, caressed and accepted by God and all this stuff, which...
and I found myself wanting to latch on to aspects of both, personally, right? Like, I think
100%.
There's something beautiful in both of those, right? And I think... Unfortunately, we live in a lot of either or in this world. I think we need to have a little bit more both and. Like, I'm a big faith and science, not faith or science, right?
100%. So, they're not mutually exclusive.
They shouldn't be. Yeah, they
absolutely.
Shouldn't be.
Yeah, and I thought that this is kind of one of the main cruxes of why I think Mike Flanagan is such a genius and why this show is so great, is because regardless of what you believe, both these ideals are beautiful and hopeful, and I thought that was just like a really, really great scene. That
there's another profound monologue.
They both touched me, like I thought they were both great. And then Riley,
he's speaking of wrong place, wrong time again, right? He shows up to the recreation center, I believe, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if it was AA time or whatever, but it was at night. He walks in after hours.
He was supposed to go and meet up with Erin.
Yes.
Erin had gone to the mainland to get a second opinion.
Right.
And at the end of the day, after dinner, Riley was supposed to go to Erin's place and spend the evening with her again. And he had caught Father Paul, Monsieur Pruitt, in a lie.
Yes, in an AA
and
section.
So he's standing there in front of Erin's house, and he's
going to confront him.
I need to go confront him. Like, it's not cool. So he walks into the rec center.
Wrong place, wrong time again.
Stands Father Pruitt.
Not alone, though.
And the vampire.
The angel.
The angel.
/ vampire.
And then at the very end of the episode, the angel pounces onto Riley and starts to bite into his neck.
Yeah.
And we have this really creepy shot of Monsignor Pruitt poking his head out of the door and slowly closing the door.
Closing the door because he wants to feast too, right? Yeah.
So and that's kind of
starting to get a little more gruesome here at this point. Yeah.
That's the end of episode 4. Yeah. So another really powerful episode, full of like great monologues, great character moments, emotions, like just really great stuff there. So episode 5, Gospel,
which means good news. Yes.
So everyone in town is looking younger and feeling better. And it's becoming evident. It's not kind of, I mean, this type of thing was gradual. But now we've kind of gotten to a point where like you just cannot ignore it anymore. And it seems very apparent that everybody is getting healthier and younger and stronger.
Especially the old frail lady, the mother of the doctor. She's now like,
she's
people
making
are baffled
leaps
that she's
and
coming
bounds,
to church. She's looking like she's 40 years old rather than 80 years old, and the doctor's sort of baffled, right?
Yeah, and then so Riley and he and Father Paul are in the rec center together. The angel is now gone.
Yeah, he's alive. He's still got the bite marks and some scars.
A little bit of blood on his neck and whatnot. And Father Paul and Riley have a series of scenes over the course of this episode where they're basically hashing out what happened. And Bev Keane shows up, and we have this really great moment where Father Paul, I guess we could just call him Monsignor Pruitt at this point. Where Pruitt asks Bev Keane to come over and expose her neck to Riley to kind of show him
And it's almost like
have him understand
translucent,
what's going on.
right? And it's almost
Yeah,
glowing,
you
and
see
you see
the
the
you
heartbeat
see it
of
glowing,
it
and you see
yeah,
it
the pulse
pulsing,
pulsating, yeah.
and it's a really effective moment.
To show that now he's been
And
infected.
Riley tries to pounce at her, and
Right.
of course Pruitt stops him.
Because now he's got that impulse. He's
But
sort of
it was
become
just
a
his way of
vampire.
kind of explaining to him, like, listen, this thing has happened to you, and so I guess there's not, from what I remember, there's not a ton that happens in this episode other than these.
It's basically
conversations
him having a
between the
conversation
two.
with Riley, trying to tell him that this is good now. You've been
This is a
resurrected
gift.
now. This is a gift you've received.
Accept the gift.
Accept the gift,
Yeah.
right? This is part of the transformation, the miraculous that's happening all over the island. You're one of the first. And he trusts him enough to actually let him leave. And Bev's like, no, he needs to stay. He needs to stay. He might be telling people. And he's like, well, what is the gospel if it's not being told and shared, right? The episode's called Gospel,
Yeah.
right? So in his mind, this is a twisted understanding of good news happening. But of course, Riley runs back to Aaron.
So this is after sundown. Yeah.
Right.
And Riley goes back to Aaron, and Aaron says, where have you been? You were supposed to be here last night. It's been almost 24 hours.
And he tells her this
Blah, blah, blah.
fantastical story that she may or may not believe, right? That sounds
Well,
crazy, right?
Yeah, so where he tells her the story, I think, is crucial too.
Very crucial.
So he says, remember that we used to go out onto the ocean in a boat, whatever.
Well, he's not only has he been having a recurring dream about the victim he killed, but he's been having this reoccurring dream about him being on a rowboat in the middle of the water.
Yeah.
And now he's there with her.
Yeah, so he takes her there. And this is like the middle of the night at this point. And he says,
lays it all out.
I have a story to tell you, and you may not believe me, but let me tell you the story. Yeah. And so he tells her, and then this is where we flash back and see all the conversations that happen in the rec center, and some really powerful, really great scenes between Riley and Pruitt about guilt and about anger and about Father Pruitt's talking jealous. Yeah, that's another great
He wants
moment.
to be brutally honest with Riley, and Riley finally, after being pressed, says, I'm jealous of you. Right?
Yeah.
Because he didn't feel any guilt when he killed
exactly
Joe,
it.
right? And yet he's full of guilt for this drunk driving accident. So in a twisted way, he's jealous of Father Pruitt's not being held to any guilt or shame. And that's the way of Father Pruitt saying, see, this is God's will, right? Because my conscience is clear. I feel no guilt at all.
Yeah.
If this was wrong, I would feel guilty. And that was Bev's argument too. Well, you're not feeling guilty? Well, maybe you're just being a vessel of God, she would say, right? You're just doing the Lord's will. Right?
Yeah.
All those awful
like,
cliches. Yeah.
I just love the way that that a self-righteous person like that, who has such in-depth knowledge of the text, is able to weaponize and cherry pick, and she uses the word cherry pick in a really effective way earlier.
That was an interesting monologue. How dare you cherry pick while she's doing likewise, right?
She does exactly that. She goes and absolutely. Yeah. She goes and she picks and chooses exactly the right words from the Bible to justify
her preconceptions, right? And her motives. So we're on the boat, on the water.
We are on the boat.
Confessing all this.
He explains everything and basically says, I'm a vampire, and what's going on this island is...
And there's this shot where he's like, I brought you out here not so you couldn't get back, but so I couldn't get back. And you realize, oh my goodness, he's going to sacrifice himself. And you see him saying this, and she's starting to clue in as the sun's rising behind him on the boat. It's just a very profound,
so the sun's just about
moment.
to come up, and you see it start to shine on Riley's face, and then we cut across the boat, we cross-cut again, where Riley should, or where Aaron should be, and we see his victim sitting there. Healthy and happy and smiling. And I kind of read that as Riley kind of maybe forgiving himself to a certain extent.
Finding some release.
Some...
Well, that's kind of, as he was talking about what happens when you die, that's, in his mind, the moment. The synapse is the dream there, right?
Yeah.
I think that's cutting to that moment, right?
Nice.
Yeah. And then we flash back, this moment of bliss
and
turns
then we
to
hard
horror.
cut to Riley catching fire
and literally
Aaron
face melt,
screaming
as he's being reduced to ashes.
And then the credits roll, and we just get like 3 minutes of Aaron screaming through the credits, which is like just gives you chills. Like so what a great moment.
And Ash is reduced to ashes, calling back Ash Wednesday, where the series began, right? From ashes you came, from dust you came, from dust you'll return is the famous line we see on Ash Wednesday. So that ends the gospel, the good news episode, which is anything but at the end. Yeah. And you're realizing, okay, things are about to go off the rails. And they begin to.
Do they ever? Yeah. So this is for me where the like great monologues, the great character moments, the great setups and payoffs not end, but
they give way to more of the pure horror.
They give way to horror and just like we have to like just move the plot along now to get to
some sort of a resolution.
Get to a resolution,
right?
Yeah.
But they squeeze one more monologue in. Is this in episode 6 where the sheriff gives his?
The sheriff does get a monologue in episode 6.
The 9/11 monologue?
Yes, that's right. And Erin does get her final
That's
monologue.
where I was like, oh, really? We got one more monologue.
Well, yeah, two more monologues to go. Here we go. Yeah. And like I don't hate them. It just like maybe there's one too many. But at the same time, like if you isolated every one of these monologues, they're all great.
Sure, absolutely.
It just feels like maybe there's one too many. But you can't like what would you take out? It's difficult.
Well, that's why it's a mini series and not a 2-hour movie. There's no way Flanagan could condense this into a 2-hour movie.
No chance. Not to get
with his bold, big, broad vision he has for this.
Yeah. So episode 6, Acts of the Apostles. Aaron goes to Riley's parents' place and tries to warn them and tell them what's going on, and tells them that Riley's dead.
Yep.
And they're just so upset they don't even believe her.
Right.
They just brush her off and ask her to leave. And so basically Aaron goes over to the doctor's house, where she figures she'll be able to get somebody on her side. And basically,
and the doctor's already been doing these blood tests and is already sort of what's going on.
She's
right?
already
she's sympathetic to it more than anyone else, right?
Yeah. And then Team Angel is prepping the island for the Great Conversion.
Yeah, the apostles. The apostles are the followers. Apostles literally means those people who are sent out, the ones who are sent out. So they're preparing to potentially be sent out beyond the island, right? They're realizing they're trying to create these converts on the island.
Yeah.
But then maybe not even limit it to the island.
So they're cutting the power, they're stopping the boats, they're
Yep.
removing the gas, they're eventually cutting the cell phone signals to the island so that nobody has the opportunity to leave.
It's all coming towards this Easter vigil, right? This late night.
The midnight
and we
mass.
should say masses have been pivoting to midnight already. Since Father Pruitt can no longer go in the daytime, they had this idea, okay, let's make all the masses and services at midnight. And so they've continued on for the last few days,
And then we get the whole town kind of lighting candles and walking to church together.
Which is typical Easter vigil service. You walk with candlelight.
Okay.
It's a big procedure.
And they're all singing in this really beautiful moment.
There's some beautiful hymn singing, yeah.
And then at midnight mass, Father Pruitt explains everything basically to the whole town, or a huge portion of the town, and basically tries to explain that there's this miracle happening and that there's this angel that has come, and
given them
the angel will be
blood of
frightening,
life, right?
But every instance in the Bible when the angel is mentioned, at the onset, the angel is frightening and everybody's scared.
Everybody's afraid, which is true, right? And usually the first words out of the angel's mouth or the voice of God is "Do not be afraid," right? Because that is the first impulse, to be afraid. Yeah.
Lo and behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to them, and they were afraid. Have faith, brothers and sisters. I would not make you see what you have seen. I would not ask you to choose what you may choose without first showing you God's messenger. And remember, brothers and sisters, have faith that in the Bible, every time they mention an angel, when an angel appears to we humans, we are afraid. And an angel of the Lord appeared to them on the right side of the altar of incense. And when Zacharias saw him, he was terrified and overcome with fear. Just then an angel of the Lord stood before them.
And so they have Sturge come up and drink poison.
Drink the poison.
Literally,
which
drink
Bev
poison.
had been using earlier on this season.
Yeah. And so Sturge dies. Has this big dramatic death in front of the whole town, and everybody's sort of like terrified and freaking out a little bit.
And this is the first time that the Muslim sheriff, is actually at the church too, because his son wanted to go and experience this. So begrudgingly, he finally came too, and he's packing. He's finally carrying a gun at this point.
Well,
right?
he was like concerned.
Yes.
The way that some of the
missing
things that his
persons,
son. Some of the things that his son was saying, the way
saying.
that he was saying it, he was concerned about what he was seeing at church. Right. So he wanted to come and investigate. Yeah. He was not there as a support.
No, and sure enough, as he shows up, what does he see? He sees Sturge dying, drinking poison.
Yeah.
So he gets up with his gun.
Yeah. So then the angel is revealed to the whole town. He shows up and in an amazing shot, goes up to the front and spreads his wings.
Yeah.
And it's pretty fantastic, that moment. And then Sturge wakes up from his death. And basically that convinces everyone of the miracle and of what's going on.
This is all good.
And the cups start getting handed out. The poison starts getting handed out. And people start drinking and dying. And
coming back, and their eyes are kind of glowing. You can see they're sort of subhuman now.
It hits the fan. Anybody who didn't drink is now getting drank from.
Yep. It literally becomes full on vampire zombie type for the last episode and a half. It's just wild, right?
Yeah. And then Pruitt gets shot in the head in this moment. Bev Keane goes and hides in the back because she's just a coward.
At heart, she's the one who's fearful and cowardice. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And there's other stuff, but that's the
long and short of it.
Moments.
Things start to go off the rails. And then we get to the final episode. We can just wrap up the synopsis here called Revelation.
Yeah. So the doctor's mother wakes up outside the church because everybody kind of breaks out and they leave the church. And the doctor's mother wakes up, now a vampire, walks into church and sits down with Father Pruitt. And they have a pretty nice moment actually together.
Well, you realize that he's the father of her daughter.
The doctor,
right? Yeah. Yeah, the doctor is the daughter, but I mean, and obviously in the Catholic Church, that's a no-no, right? You're not allowed to have sexual relations or be married, and so they had to sort of keep that on the down low. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we just have a great scene with the two of them about kind of the natural flow of life, and she says this is how things should be. Things, we drifted apart. We made our decisions. This was our life. We both kind of did our own things, and we just had to live with the decisions that we made. And then, Pruitt says, well, what about second chances? Like, we've been given this opportunity, and she's not buying it. It's not natural, and he says, I would have given up my collar anytime if you would have come knocking. Mm-hmm. And she said, well, I couldn't. I had my own family. I had my own life, my own husband. I couldn't do that to them, And so she was a lot more realistic about how, life goes and how life should be. So I thought that was a really nice moment. Bev goes on a creepy religious rant and decides that she's going to burn down the whole town and force everybody to rely on the church as an ark, as the only way to survive.
Which is messed up, but I should say the book of Revelation in the Bible is one of the most messed up, enigmatic books that has been so misunderstood. It's full of beasts and fire and judgment and blood, and so she's taking all of this metaphorical stuff literally and trying to literalize it and saying, this must be the sign of the end, right? We gotta kind of usher in God's vengeance and return, and we're just gonna set fire to it all, right? Because she's got a chapter and verse that allegedly says that in Revelation. So it's ridiculous, but she's this twisted logic in her mind of what she's doing.
Yeah. And so Team Angel or Team Vampire is basically their plan was to convert everybody into vampire overnight, and then the next day go to the mainland and
continue like a contagion, right?
Exactly.
This is the meta-narrative of Flanagan's teaching that toxic religion can be a contagion that can spread far and wide, right?
Yeah. And then Team Aaron plan to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Right.
And that this contagion and nobody ever leaves the
Nobody
island.
ever leaves that.
And so they go and burn the boats and try to cut off any way to get off the island.
And then not too long after, Aaron has her encounter with the angel, the vampire, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is very...
So now the town is going up to the rec center, and they're going to...
That was the one place they were going to preserve to sleep through the day in, right? Because
That's
they
right.
got, before sunrise, they got to be...
That's right.
they
So
gotta be
Bev
out
had
of the
set up
light.
a bunch of beds
Right.
and was inviting anybody who was faithful to the church to come in. And then we have this like terrible scene where like somebody who wasn't religious is standing there and is very confused, doesn't understand what's happening, is looking for safety.
Well,
and,
I think he just ate his daughter or something. He's
he's like, I just killed my family. I don't know what's happening. And she's like, sorry, buddy, you didn't come to church,
Sorry.
so
You're done.
Go
burn in the sun.
Which is like
God will judge you now. It's in God's hands.
Yeah.
Right?
And then Team Aaron manages to set the rec center on fire.
Yeah, it's the sheriff's son, I think, who actually takes the lighter and does the deed. Right?
Yeah, as a vampire.
As a vampire, but
Yeah,
still
it's
with
a nice
bit of
moment,
a moral compass there.
So then
So now they got no place to sleep. They got no place for refuge, which I kind of find strange because there would have still been plenty of natural places they could have dug or made something, but they don't think to. And well, Bev tries.
So then stuff is going crazy and people are getting fed on and murdered and whatnot. And then the angel jumps onto
Aaron, recognizing Aaron's been the threat, starts feeding on her.
And Aaron, realizing that she's done, pulls out a knife and starts cutting up his wings. And we do get a scene a few moments earlier where we see that when the angel is feeding, he's not... He's kind of comatose.
Consumed with that. He's just kind of...
He's not really capable
almost like this
of...
bloodlust. He's just not really conscientious of what's going on around him.
Yeah,
right?
so
she's able to get away with
cutting
this,
up
right?
all
you kind
his
of feel
wings.
something, but then it goes back to feeding.
Yeah.
Right?
So that he's not able to fly to the mainland, kind of thing. So basically everybody on the island realizes that there's no escape and that it's over for everybody.
Yeah, and so they're all, for some of them, like Bev, it's pure terror.
Yeah.
Fear actually comes out, the one who seemed to have it all together. But for others, they're singing. They're singing and consoling one another, right?
A beautiful moment.
Interesting contrast in how they're responding to this, right?
Yeah, and I talked about it earlier, how Flanagan wanted the beautiful side of religion to be present as well.
Yeah, there's still some community there.
We see that. So the final moments, we see just about everyone on the island repent and sing together in a moment of peace before their death. Meanwhile, Bev isn't repentant. She's terrified and attempts to bury herself like the weak, fragile coward that she is.
Yeah, and that's not to kill herself. That's trying to find refuge, trying to stay out of the sun, I think, right? She's trying to, if I can bury myself.
She's trying to survive, trying to
exactly.
Instead of facing, the consequences of her own actions and etc.
And that's how it ends. They all friggin'
everybody burns up. We have a really nice moment where Father Pruitt and the doctor's mother and the dead doctor at this point are together as kind of this little family. And we have a moment I wanted your opinion on, but the father kind of takes off his collar and kind of throws it off in that final moment before the sun comes up. And I think that could easily be read as him like rejecting religion, but I don't think that's
it could be
what
rejecting
it was.
religion, or it could be him repenting of what had become toxic religion, where toxicity had contaminated him. Because the mother, when first time she goes to church and she hears his sermon, she says, "Don't ever take me back there again. This is not the guy I knew."
Yeah,
which means at one time there was something more pure in him.
Yeah.
And now he's been contaminated with this contagion, right? That's what the whole point of the miniseries is about, right? That religion can be beautiful, even though Flanagan doesn't subscribe to it, but it can also be very toxic. It can be a contagion if there's no critical thinking, if it's about power and control and violence and everything Bev Keane personifies, right? Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, that can and has spread.
I read it as because he said he would remove his collar anytime for her.
Right.
And I read it as he wanted to remove his collar to have one final moment as an actual little family that he was never able to have.
Sure. Yeah. No, I think that's definitely a good read.
So yeah, just a couple of overall.
That was just a short synopsis of all 7 episodes of Midnight Mass.
Yeah, which I think the show deserves the time.
Yeah,
in my opinion. But yeah, so a couple of main things that I just wanted to call out. As I said before, I think Bev Keane, that character was incredible, so hateful and so amazing and so well played by that actor. Amazing. The do not cherry pick speech, I think, like,
that really jumped out at me on my rewatch.
Hard. Yeah. And then she basically dispelled that guy. You don't get safety from us because you don't believe. Right. Like, not cool. And I think she embodies religious fanaticism without questioning anything. And it's and Hamish Linklater, I think, holds the entire thing together, because if he doesn't put this incredible performance, you don't buy that a whole town would follow him. And you have to be able to buy that. And he's just so charismatic. And I think there was a lot of talk about cults surrounding this, because cults are often a situation where vulnerable people
with a charismatic leader
who are looking for somewhere to belong.
Yep.
And this island is full of vulnerable people.
Maybe low education,
who are stuck there. They're not doing well because of the oil spill and whatnot, and they're just looking for something to latch onto.
Easy to take advantage of.
And here comes this charismatic good-looking young priest who just speaks incredibly well. And
you add some allegedly miraculous things that happen, and it just
you buy it. I fully buy it,
right?
Yeah,
and it happens all the time, right? And it's sad when there's no autonomy to think, to be curious, to have doubts, and that's something I try and create in my faith community, is an honest place where people can come with their curiosities, their doubts, their fears, and it's not groupthink. We can agree to disagree. Every week when we come together and I give my sermon, there's a chance for Q&A, and people can give their feedback or pushback. I say I welcome all feedback and pushback, and we have some good back and forth dialogue. I think that's healthy. This is unhealthy, where it's just groupthink. You must think this way. You must go the way of Bev Keane. And you've got these religious bullies and bigots that are just calling the shots, right? So, yeah,
100%. I think if I had to say what this show is ultimately about, it's about following your own moral compass, seeking your truth, but also questioning things in an attempt to understand, while being accepting of others, even if they don't have the same exact moral compass, or they have their own belief systems. Without judgment. I think that's the main thing that sticks out.
And I think you might also, what sticks out is you might be fascinated if you're open to learning from people who think, look, and act different than you. Like I said earlier, some of the most profound things were from the Muslim sheriff, were from the guilt-stricken drunk driver, right? Or the atheist, or even the town drunk in a moment of accepting forgiveness, right?
And one thing that I found fascinating about this show is that, like, within the universe of this show, I think it's entirely possible, again, within the universe of this show, that 2,000 years ago, some sort of vampiric event happened, right? Because clearly vampires exist within this universe. So some sort of vampiric event happened where Jesus, or somebody that ended up being this Jesus character, was bitten or involved or became a vampire or something, resuscitated. And then over the course of 2,000 years, it was like filtered and ended up being this religion, Christianity. And
I
just
that's
thought
how
that
Mike Flanagan explains the Jesus movement, right? It was vampires.
I just found it all really interesting, right? The vampire story is just because to me, a vampire story and a creature that sucks blood and can't go in the sun and whatever is just as realistic and believable as a person who can perform miracles and walk on water and be resuscitated. Like, they're no different to me, right? So I just found that really fascinating and interesting. It's kind of a realization that I had while watching this.
I just think the metaphor of vampire works for critiquing religion. I mean, what does a vampire do? It stays out of the light, light in the cover of darkness, and it gets life and sustenance from feeding off another. And I think that's a really good analogy for the dark side of religion that stays in the shadows, that feeds off the vulnerable, to try and perpetuate growth, and it spreads like a contagion, right? And religion has the power to spread for all the right reasons or to spread for all the wrong reasons, and I think we get Mike Flanagan hinting at how both are possible and inevitable, sadly, in our world. So yeah, I thought it was pretty fascinating overall. Where are you on this with your score? I mean, are we at score time?
The
sun's going to come up soon here. We got to wrap this up, right?
Yeah. No, I have this as a 5 out of 5. It's just like it's maybe one or two too many monologues, but again, that's like
they're all profound. Though,
they're all profound. They all belong. I couldn't pick one or two to remove.
Yeah,
I think they're all they contribute in meaningful ways to the story. If I had one nitpick, the old age makeup was not great. Like, I immediately picked it out as like this awkward thing. And I think they could have done a touch better with that, but like that is a nitpick.
Yeah.
At best.
Yeah. For me, I give it I'm not quite as high. I like it a lot. Even more on a revisit. I give it a solid 4 out of 5. I think it's a little overstuffed with some of the monologues, but I'm sympathetic to that because this is the guy's most personal work, right? When you have a passion project and it's so personal, you have so many ideas that are coming together. I think Flanagan needs some editors around him that can kind of trim a little bit of the fat off some of these series he's doing, but I'm not going to take that away from him because he wants to do something he's passionate about. I think where Flanagan thrives in the horror genre, it's with the humanist side of things. When the beasts are lurking in the shadows, that's where he had his best. And I think it teeters a little bit in the last episode or 2 episodes where the beasts show up and it kind of goes off the rails a little bit. I don't think that's Flanagan at his best. At his best is episodes 3 to 5 where we're digging in deep to these characters. There's still some jump scares and things lurking in the shadows, but he's really leaning into the themes that he's so good at with grief and guilt and religion and shame. I think that's the sweet spot of this. But overall, very good. I give it a 4 out of 5. Solid. Yeah. So, if we spoiled it all for you, but it's still worth watching. We gave Matt kudos to you for taking the deep dive and giving the great synopsis you did for each episode. So
yeah, thanks. Like the big thing for me coming out of this is I think we kind of get so many different perspectives from these characters. We get to see the kind of the believers, the non-believers, and the show doesn't really tell you which side to fall on. And I think that's really admirable because I actually literally Googled today what Mike Flanagan's religious beliefs were.
Yep.
Because if you told me he was a devout Christian, I would have believed you. If you told me he was an atheist, I would have believed you either way. And so I give huge props to him for showing both sides, because within the show we see the great side of what religion can do for people. There's beautiful moments of belief in that show. We also have the Bev Keane, and we have the non-believers, and we have the believers, we have the atheists. We just see every perspective.
The full spectrum is there.
And they don't tell you which side to fall on, which I think is admirable.
I think that's very admirable as well, and that's how it should be. Yeah. And I know I've listened to some atheist reviews of this, and they're upset because they feel it's just too preachy and too stuffed with religious banter, right? Which is why I was fascinated why you love this so much.
Right.
And probably some religious people would get upset because it's too graphic or gory or it caricatures religion. The Bev Keane is just a straw man, right? A caricature, right?
She's a bad example.
She's a bad example. We're not like that, right? But I understand where Flanagan's going, right? In putting this persona in there. Yeah. Yes, it is a bit of a caricature, but there is a dark side to religion, right? It's possible that it can lead to flourishing and good and add value to the world, or it's possible that it can add judgment and violence and evil, right?
Yeah.
What's the intention of the heart? I think that's the key that Mike is getting at in this. So,
Yeah, so needless to say, this is one of my favorite works of fiction of all time. I'm absolutely huge
I'm
fan.
shocked. It's also our longest episode. I just love listening to you go on and on.
One of our longest episodes for sure.
From dusk till dawn, literally. Which is fitting.
Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for
if you made it to the end.
Yeah.
Kudos to you.
Yeah, I had a blast, and I love this show, obviously, and I hope people love it as much as I do. And if you haven't had a chance to watch it, why are you still listening?
Yeah, so and we do have some Flanagan news, a couple things. So his next film coming out is called The Life of Chuck. It won the Audience Choice Award at TIFF, Toronto Film Festival.
Yeah,
it's not a horror movie, but it's one of the few Stephen King novels that is not a horror that's being adapted. And also in the works, Flanagan's going to be doing, I guess, a TV series spin-off of Carrie, the famous horror movie. So I'll be very interested to see where he goes with that.
Yeah,
so, he's just going to
keep religious
cooking.
stuff to dive into there.
So I'm very fascinated to see what he does with that. So
might
be someone to continue to keep our eyes on.
We didn't talk too much about like his career, and I won't because we're wrapping things up here. But like, if you're not familiar, Mike Flanagan,
we'll circle around and revisit him.
Mike Flanagan has done, Haunting of Hill House, Haunting of Bly Manor, Midnight Mass, Midnight Club, and most recently Fall of the House of Usher.
Right.
So 5 really solid Netflix limited series, and he's got
a host of films,
4 or 5, maybe 6 movies,
Hush and Oculus,
that he's directed, and they're all great. I'm a huge fan. If you haven't figured that out yet, if you're just familiar with his TV series, go check out his movies. He's incredible.
Dr. Sleep. I mean, he's got some balls to take one of the greatest horror movies ever, The Shining, and
and do a good job. It's good. It's very solid. Good. I was like, really, you're gonna touch The Shining, and he pulled it off. Somehow it's good.
It's not bad. That's for sure. Well, thanks everyone for tracking with us on this Halloween special. We're going to wrap things up. I don't really know how to land this plane, but just want to say if you're enjoying this podcast, take a few minutes. If you haven't already done so, rate, review, whatever platform you're listening on. You can follow us on Instagram at Dice Camera Action Pod. If you have any feedback, comments, or we would love for you to suggest a movie game pairing like we've done for this Halloween episode, for future episodes. So shoot us an email at dicecameraactionpod@gmail.com. Well, before the sun comes up, I think we're going to wrap this up. So thanks, Matt. It's been great doing this Halloween episode with you, and for taking this deep dive into the world of Midnight Mass and Beast. Thanks for introducing me to the new game as well. I enjoyed it. So.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.